News, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin and Brett Stats Norsworthy.
And a good Monday afternoon to you on this April 13th, 2020. Another week and another day without sports. Day 32, no sports due to COVID-19. Fifth straight weekend of no sports. And for now, it doesn't look like any end in sight for us being sportsless, whether fanless or not. Tonight would have been the Grizzlies' last home game of the 1920 campaign. It would have been against Philadelphia. Joel Embiid probably wouldn't have played. They would have probably been having maintenance for him, preparing for the playoffs to start around the NBA on Saturday for some teams and Sunday for the rest of the teams. The last Grizzlies regular season game would have been Wednesday night on the road, and that will be the 17th game not played. 32 and 33, 65 games played, 17 missed. And now some plan being discussed, Dave Woloshin, of a 25-day start back. But it doesn't say when day one starts, does it?
No, because nobody could possibly know. At least we had Horse. I don't know if you watched any of that.
Not a second.
Well, Mark Jones did about as good a job as you possibly could, but you're talking with inferior cameras and technology that isn't exactly like the network quality where players put up their own phones as cameras. And Mike Conley was a winner. That was nice. I watched Chris Paul lose to a WNBA player from Chicago who was actually pretty good. Did not watch the Conley win, but that certainly did not feast my appetite for what we're looking for. This thing that he's talking about, the 25-day program, would consist of everybody, when the time is given and the medical clearance is allowed, everybody would gather at a site, but they would have individual workouts, keeping distancing for 11 days, and then once everybody got tested and there was medical clearance, there would be a 14-day camp, a training camp, and then we would start again. So whenever that is, you're talking about really a month before you would get the season going, whenever that ramp up, that 25-day ramp up would begin. And who knows? And who knows the way it will be even around here, Brett. The modeling is so different from everybody. We thought originally we would be like 2 days away or so from the peak. Well, now the peak by the Vanderbilt model is probably not until June. By the Shelby County Health Advisor, Dr. Hoshalter, she's basically saying late May, early June will be when the peak would be in Memphis. And then today, the mayor made the proclamation that in his mind, you would have to open things up very slowly, and you wouldn't even begin to do that until basically designating the peak time. So let's just say that peak is first week of June, because that's basically what Haushalter was saying today. Then you'd have to wait for 14 straight days of declining cases, and more testing would be available at this time. But when you had 14 straight days of lessening cases and a whole bunch of testing in place, that would be when you might start to open things up. Now, the president, the governor might see things differently, but that is the way the mayor of Memphis sees it, at least the way he sees it on April 13th. By my calculations here, Brett, we're not going to see any kind of opening at all until basically July.
So if there's light at the end of the tunnel's a long way down there.
Yep.
With June, July being bandied about. Mark Cuban's done it again. He's out there saying now June. He feels good about the NBA. He's going to be right eventually. He's saying June the NBA will start back. So using that 25-day NBA model, as you laid out, that could be with that starting June 15th.
Right.
Or July 1st.
Let's just say that they came back in June. The earliest, if they came back the first week of June, the earliest it would be July. And if it's the middle of June, it would be the middle of July. You're looking basically 25 days, almost a month, before you could really start seriously thinking about playing games. And, are you going to have people or you're not going to have people? At this point, you wouldn't have people because people have already said in polls, Major League Baseball did a poll, they're not coming. They're not coming until there's a vaccine.
It's going to be pretty fanless. I think Cuban's already relented to that fact. And would it be at the rosiest scenario? Let's say a June 1, and they needed most of July or June to get going. Then we started back the season, and they try to wedge in those games to get that TV contract money. Then the playoffs start. Is it really 8 teams on each side? Is it really best of 7 on each side, or is it really boiled down? I saw one, and I think it was mostly satirical of have early round be one and done. Have it be single elimination in this odd year of years. If I'm one of the more powerful teams, if I'm Los Angeles or the Clippers or the Lakers or the Clippers or anybody halfway decent, no, I didn't play from October to March for it to be one and done no matter what happened.
Honestly, I would play probably the first round one and done. And then maybe best of 5 until you get to the championship series, and play that best of 7 if that's the way it works out. If you're able to come back at all, it's pretty obvious to me. There's no way before July 1st that this could really happen. And I'm taking into account they would apply. They would come back in June for that mini camp. But I think so much has to happen. We have to see declining cases on a regular basis before that would be allowed. And you've got Dr. Fauci on a whole different wavelength than a lot of people who I understand are so ready to get things back to going normal. But I just don't think, based on everything I see, all these different models, and I will admit they vary, so this isn't totally exact science, but nobody is saying let's stop distancing, let's open up the economy. I think that's way premature to start discussing that.
Well, we got to remember the original model was presented to the president as 2.2 million deaths. Well, if you're presented with that, you do almost anything, and then it went down to about 675. Then it went down to about 4, and then he admitted about 2 weeks ago it was 100 to 240. And right now it's varying around 60 to 100,000. We'll see what the latest models do with that. I think at the very top, just my supposition on it, I think it's got the best and the brightest scientists in the world at every acronym and letters you can think of, from Johns Hopkins to CDC, totally flummoxed. And now we're hearing that the 6 feet of separation, that we may need 13 feet of separation.
I know that it does seem to always change. I do know this, though. As of about 2 o'clock today, 23,000 deaths in the United States. We surpassed Italy. And if we're still a month away from peak, you're going to get your 60 for sure.
Yeah,
just by being logical. Like yeah.
And now the number is big. We'll get to all those numbers and all the particulars. There's a lot of for not a lot going on. There's a lot of college football news out there today on various people speaking up, including Pete Thamel at Yahoo. He wrote a column. Drew has the column there. There were a couple of things that piqued my interest about it. Dave, he was writing about what we have talked a lot about, and not necessarily just because of COVID-19 and the repercussions financially from it, but there was already a pretty good wave of momentum at expanding the playoffs. Certainly not for this year, for 2020, or even next year, 2021, but at the earliest 2022, and for sure by 23, that it would not extend to just 4 teams out through the contract terms through 25 or 26. And Pete Thamel at Yahoo wrote about the various scenarios. And even, Drew, I think you have it there, he even surmised, he said, take, for instance, last year, it would have been number 1 Alabama against number 8 Cincinnati. I missed something there, Pete.
Yeah. Memphis beat Cincinnati twice, unless he's got Memphis as a higher seed, and there's two non-Power 5 teams in there.
He doesn't. Memphis beat them twice in 8 days.
Yeah. Pete made a mistake.
I think it means you're better. Did you read that story, Drew?
Yeah, I read the story. I'm not sure if the way he's saying it is that's the way it would have been, or hypothetically this could be the way that is going forward. But if you're going to pick just 8 teams and you're going to have a hypothetical team, why not go with the hypothetical the most recent one, or one that's actually been in one of those New Year's Six bowls since we've started having them for the last 4 or 5 years?
The only good aspect of the best aspect of that is at least he's including a group of 5 team in a theoretical 8-team playoff. So there would be incentive for the group of 5 to stay in the game.
I think for the last few years, and I don't think it will be, but even if it was like this, I think the Tigers last year and Central Florida at least once, if not twice, I think if it had just been a pool of a selection committee taking what they perceived as the 8 best teams, I think Memphis and Central Florida at least once, if not twice, would have been among those teams and would have been included, and they for sure will be if they have the designated spot for non-Power 5.
Well, that is what I hope for, because as much as I'd like to believe that you're right about that, I always go back to, the selection committee's going to say that there wasn't enough power of schedule strength for that team to be considered that year. Well, it would have been hard for UCF 2 years ago because they did have a pretty good non-conference schedule. But Memphis last year, I think you would have had a hard case getting them in. The best win they would have gotten would have been the win over the Rebels. Otherwise, you're talking South Alabama.
Their best win was SMU last year.
Well, it was.
Or Cincinnati.
It was. I would agree with that, but I'm not sure there would have been enough clout with what you would have seen as your non-conference to get over a middle range Power 5 team that was trying to bust the party.
And the kind of the catch-22 there, where you're kind of always chasing your tail a little bit for non-Power 5, well, you can't get the schedule because they really don't want to play you because they don't want to lose to you.
Right.
But then how do you beef up the schedule?
That's been the dilemma forever. When you're not in control, it's uncomfortable.
And then if you play too many of them, you get nicked up and you go to the back of the line and they say, see there, they couldn't stand a tougher schedule when they're not built for that budget-wise, when the budget disparity is so wide. So we'll talk about a lot of things being tossed around in college football, scheduling-wise, but we've got a good roster of guests today. Our lineup includes Kathy Pope, the president of the Mid-South Food Bank. She will join us at 3:30 to talk about their needs and exactly what they are all going through. She came to Memphis from down on the Gulf Coast, so she has been involved in a lot of tougher, dire situations with storms and hurricanes and things that hit the Gulf Coast, but now this has hit everywhere. At 4 o'clock, David Cobb from CBS Sports Online. We'll visit with him about this and this week in college basketball with a lot of signings potentially and a lot of commitments potentially this week. 4:30, Tim Doolin joins us to talk baseball. At 5 o'clock, we'll visit with Charles Davis, our friend right now still listed as being with Fox Sports, but the story is out there that he has been elevated to the number 2 team at CBS with Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle's partner had been Dan Fouts through the years. Charles can't talk too much about that as that's not completely official, but we'll get some thoughts from him about what might be going on in his very busy world and the impending NFL draft. And we'll wrap up this day with Taco Bell Crunch Time about 5:45. Dave, this could be a big week for a lot of college basketball teams.
Sure could.
Who knew that the Iron Bowl on the hardwood, Alabama and Auburn, they are both having great signing classes and in on a lot of great players, and some of them conflict with the University of Memphis. Some of those players Auburn's going after, that's who Memphis is going after.
Well, this is the Friday that Jalen Green says which school he's going to go to. There are plenty of people that think it's Memphis. There was a very interesting tweet by Precious Achua, who basically said, going to be a great week for Tigers. And so how do you decipher what that tweet means? Does that mean he's staying and he's not going to go in the draft where he's anywhere from 16 to about 25 in all these mocks? Or does that mean he knows Jalen Green is going to sign with the Tigers? I guess we'll have to wait till Friday.
We're going to have to wait till Friday on it. I think Jalen Green is now – I saw a Jason Munn's tweet a little bit ago that Jalen Green has announced has said he's going to announce at 3 o'clock Central on Thursday.
Oh, he's moved it up a day. It was going to be Friday the 17th.
Let me make sure I'm right about that.
You are correct, Brett. It is Thursday at 3 o'clock Central.
Yeah, 3 o'clock Central on Thursday for the Jalen Green announcement. Surely it'll leak before then, won't it?
I don't know. I'm sure he already knows, and so I'm sure he's told some people. So maybe it will.
Oh, Bruce Pearl right in the mix, isn't he?
Bruce Pearl, you got to give the guy credit. He figures out ways to stay up there, either on players or in games, whether he's got great talent or whether he's got mediocre talent that plays their butts off. Whether you like him or not, you can't help but acknowledge what a good coach he really is.
He is a good coach. A lot goes with it, but he is a good coach, including going to the Final Four last year. This hour of our show brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis, 2600 Ridgeway, and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Call them at 901-362-8833. Lexus of Memphis offering the Golden Opportunity Spring Sales Event. Great offers on all 2020 models and always on special lease options. If you've ever thought I'd look great in a Lexus, well, guess what? Lexus of Memphis thinks you would look outstanding in one of those beautiful Lexus cars today. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by at Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Lexus of Memphis, the highest standards in the car business. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and that makes for the luxury driving experience. 901-362-8833. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, on this 32nd day of no sports, the coronavirus has now affected 1,269 separate people in Shelby County. There have been 2 new fatalities since we last talked to you on Friday. There have been 28 deaths. There has been an announcement about where the second overflow hospital will be constructed, and it'll be familiar to a bunch of people in our business because, Brett, it will be at 495 Union Avenue. That is the old Commercial Appeal building, which has been abandoned. I've heard that there was discussions that Target might do a super Target with a grocery store in there, and maybe that is still to come. But in the meantime, it will become the actual main overflow hospital, actually taking preference, I think, to begin with, over the one that they're building in the shopping center on Jackson Avenue. The mayor did say his criteria on reopening business for the city would mean a decline in cases and widespread testing more than we have now, and the ability to, in his words, contact trace, isolate, and quarantine so hospitals would not get overflowed. Quoting, if we loosen the faucet in 6 to 8 weeks, there could be more developments. So he has said, as I just told you a little earlier, to reopen, it would be where there would be a downward trend of new cases for 14 straight days after the peak comes. So it would appear to me, if I do the math correctly on all of this, and the peak is going to come by the new models and by the Shelby County Health Department, them saying it's probably in late May or early June, I'm assuming we're very close to July before the mayor would say, okay, you can all now get mass gatherings, or it's not just for essential businesses. He would truly reopen the city. The dashboard numbers, we are approaching 1 million people now worldwide with the pandemic. 1,913,340. By the time we talk tomorrow, there'll be 2 million cases. We've had close to 120,000 fatalities. 444,000 have recovered. In the United States now, over 500,000, 577,332. 23,000 have passed away. In the state of Tennessee, 5,300 with 101 deaths. In Mississippi, 2,900 with 98 deaths. And that's high. The death rate there much higher than the cases in Tennessee. And then in Arkansas, almost 1,400 cases and 29 fatalities.
Yeah, and it's just who you're going to believe, and who the powers, the elected officials, who they're going to believe on a lot of the numbers and a lot of the modeling. For instance, the IHMA modeling for the state of Tennessee hospitalization rate could not have been more off. IHME claimed that nearly 12,000 Tennesseans would be hospitalized as of yesterday. The actual number, a total of 567 people. That means they were only off by 2,000%. My top sports story of the day, it sure appears it could be a week with big announcements around Tigers basketball, Memphis Tigers basketball. We wait on Jalen Green. We wait on Greg Brown. Maybe a reclassification by Musa Cisse. That may not be this week, but could be sometime before next season, and he impact next season. Auburn seems to be the rival for Green and Texas for Brown. Auburn got West Memphis standout Chris Moore when most thought he was headed to Memphis. Brown may go to Texas because of Shaka Smart. And isn't that interesting? There's Bruce Pearl. Kind of can't ever get him out of the Memphis Tigers' hair. He's always around. And Shaka Smart may have been fired if the season didn't get canceled, and that could have impacted Greg Brown.
And getting Brown may save his job. And incidentally, since you mentioned Cisse, he gave out his list of top 10 today, and on that top 10 list is Memphis and Tennessee and Kentucky and LSU. I believe Alabama was on that list. I'm not totally sure about Auburn.
Not top story of the day.
Well, this story is a sad one for me because it is a gentleman who passed away over the weekend that I just thought the world of, and I think the city thought the world of, Rudy Scheidt. At age 95, it had nothing to do with COVID-19. Rudy had been ill the last couple of years, but truly a brilliant businessman, an unbelievable philanthropist, a man who loved the city of Memphis, a man of great faith, and a man who gave to the arts. The School of Music at the University of Memphis is named after him, after he and his wife gave what is considered one of the largest donations in the history of the school. Rudy Scheidt was a pioneer. He helped to open up the business with China way back when, during the Reagan era, when it was opened up in the cotton business, and he will be missed by many people.
Yeah, he was right there with Billy Donovan in the 70s after Nixon normalized relations with communist China. And I told you, Dave, last year on on Valentine's Eve, I was at a restaurant, his favorite restaurant. You'd see me about every time you'd go there, and I texted you, only two guys in here with ties on, me and Mr. Rudy Scheidt, and he was a gentleman for sure. My not top story, Chris Fowler. He speaks 3 scenarios he gives out, maybe 4 for college football. Play as scheduled 1, cancel the seasons 2, push back to a November start, or push all the way back to late February with bowl games, maybe in May, in the college football playoff and finals in May. It's clear some form of college football has to be played, or the entire structure of college athletics will fail. It will collapse. All those budget draining sports, they've only existed because of football, and this is going to tell the tale. They got to get football season in somehow, some way. But, Dave, if you're Trevor Lawrence, for instance, if you're Trevor Lawrence and you know you're probably going to be the number one player drafted whenever they have an NFL draft in 2021, why would you risk February, March, April play next year for 1 year when your spot is pretty secure?
That would absolutely be a dilemma on his part. I can certainly understand that he would be very timid about playing, because I don't think it would affect, if he did not play, his status to be drafted. I'm in agreement with you there. And of those scenarios,
you got to play the full season, and then they have the draft, and then you go to an NFL training camp when we get back to normality in July. That's a lot of football in a compact couple months.
Of those four scenarios, don't you think the fourth one is the most logical one? Because I can't imagine
no,
at this point that we're going to have students on campus by late July, by late August. Although that could happen, but if it doesn't, I can literally see where we will have football and basketball at the same time. And I mean, if I were television and I were trying to figure out how to schedule, I think we'd be playing a lot of basketball games on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would belong to football. There'd be a couple of weekday football games, but for the most part, you're playing both those seasons together, and you probably would try and save the Saturdays for football.
No, I sadly think of those four scenarios, I sadly think cancellation is the one that probably is most likely. When we come back, we'll visit with Kathy Pope. She's president of the Mid-South Food Bank. Look forward to visiting with her about so many subjects that I know they're working on and trying to help a lot of people desperately in need, and how we can volunteer either our time or our resources to that great organization. Kathy Pope leads us off. That's next. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7, and 96.1 FM.
Spend your lunch with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 middays, delivered by FedEx. Weekdays from 10 to 1 on Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Fiveash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Hilo Commercial Services can help protect your workplace and employees. Call Hilo Commercial Services today to help mitigate the dangerous effects of the coronavirus and the flu virus. Hilo offers complete deep cleaning and sanitizing services for schools, churches, medical facilities, office buildings, residential, warehouses, and more, all customized to your needs. Put safety first with Hilo Commercial Services. Call Philip right now at 901-277-6733. 901-277-6733. It's time for Hilo Commercial Services.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include Central Barbecue, Sunrise, Sweetgrass, Humdingers, Germantown Commissary, Jason's Deli, Corky's, East Coast Wings, Moe's, and Soulfish Cafe. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
We welcome you back, and we're very pleased to have as a special guest Kathy Pope. She is with the Mid-South Food Bank. You can follow Mid-South Food Bank on Twitter at MSouth Food Bank. And Kathy, she is president of Mid-South Food Bank. She started with them last August. Prior to that, she was president of Feeding the Gulf Coast Food Bank, which dealt with similar feeding emergencies during hurricanes. And now, Kathy, unfortunately, we are all experiencing a hurricane of sorts, just like you have dealt with for years on the Gulf Coast. We thank you for joining us today, and we applaud your good work.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, and we were thrilled to have you, and we want to be able to help. First of all, tell people just the amount of food and how many people you have helped, say, in the last 6 weeks since we really entered into the virus of 2020 world.
Well, we have increased our mobile. We are serving 2 different ways. We've increased our mobile pantries where we do direct distribution to the public. So we did 83 of those last month. So we called Disaster Day 1, March 12, and we really ramped up the amount of food that we are distributing. So last year, prior to COVID-19, we averaged 1.3 million pounds a month, 1.3 million, and just in March, we did 2.2 million. Wow. And then just in April, we have done already 1.1 million, and it's the 13th of April. So you can tell the quantity is, we'll be doubling and tripling the amount of food that we're distributing.
When you're dealing with those kinds of numbers, it staggers the head. Explain what your day is sort of like. You get up, and are you calling food distributors or people to prepare food, or how does your day work?
Well, we don't deal with prepared food, and I have food resourcers, so they're coming to work every day trying to find the food. So usually my comments to my staff is, where is the food? Where are the funds? Those are the 2 things we have got to get in the door, because we have got to continuously put food orders in the queue, because everybody's ordering food right now. All of the 199 other food banks in the country, the Krogers, the Walmarts of the world, everybody's going after basically the same food, because there's only X number of manufacturers in the country. So we have to continue to have food orders in the queue. I am part of the emergency management. They call them ESF, emergency support functions. And so I'm doing that with Shelby County, the state of Tennessee, and the state of Mississippi. So I'm on conference calls a lot. We are working with the state of Tennessee emergency management for them to order food for us, the 5 food banks in Tennessee, doing the same thing in Mississippi. I'm dealing with donors, of course. We're reaching out to different donors that have supported us in the past. We're making decisions on getting community letters out and working with a lot of wonderful partners that are really working together to see how we can collaborate to get more food out the door. For example, we've gotten a great relationship going with YMCA, and they are the ones that are feeding the children their lunch that they are missing from not being in school. And we are having mobile pantries at not all of their sites, but a lot of their sites, so that the kids that are getting the lunch, the parents are able to get food boxes to take home. So we've really increased our partnerships, which has been so fantastic.
Kathy Pope, our guest from Mid-South Food Bank. She's president of Mid-South Food Bank. And Kathy, please tell our listeners how they could most directly help tomorrow. Is it with a contribution of actual food? Is it money? Is it both of those things and time? All 3 of those things and a prayer. What all can people do to help you tomorrow morning?
Yeah, the first one would be the prayer, because we just know the increased need. We can't even fathom it. Right now I'm crunching numbers with a 55% increase in need. I think that might even be conservative the longer we go on. But the very best way to help the food bank, which in turn helps those who are hungry, is going to be donate financially. because once we pool everyone's resources, the funds, then we are able to order additional food. And we're just able to buy in bulk, so we can get it a lot cheaper than you can donate food. So donating funds is just always going to be best. You can do that, midsouthfoodbank.org, and hit the donate button. There's also a coronavirus response button that will give you additional information about either donating or where are the mobile pantries in our community. We are not having volunteers in the warehouse, and in fact, a little early on, I made the decision to not have anybody in the warehouse that we didn't have to have here, so that I could protect the workers that do have to come to work. So the drivers have to come to work. The warehouse workers have to come to work. So we've got 35% of our workforce is working from home. So we're not having volunteers in the warehouse, but we do have other volunteer opportunities off-site. And again, you can find that on our website, midsouthfoodbank.org.
I went to your website a little earlier, and I see that you, I guess, rotate all these every day, different places where you will distribute the food. How do I guess do you arrive at that? How often do you rotate them? And I know you gave us a staggering number. Usually it's 1.3 million a month, and you're already there just about halfway through this month. What does that mean in numbers of all the people you are serving that are in need of having food?
Well, for example, we served the households that we served in March, and again, we called the day one disaster day was March 12, but just in March, we served, by way of mobile pantries, we served 23,500 households. That's staggering. Now, that is in all of our service area. So we serve 18 counties in North Mississippi, 12 in West Tennessee, and then Crittenden in Arkansas. But 14,000 of those households were in Shelby County, and the others were in different parts of our service area. But we are also getting great amounts of food out to our partner agencies. That's your brick and mortar pantry, food pantry. That would be like in your local church or whatever that would be. So we're getting a great amount of food out to those pantries, as well as adding additional mobile pantries.
Kathy, I think we're all stunned at how quickly this all changed all of our lives, all of our routines, all of our seemingly real or perceived very, very comfortable, cozy lives. Has it shocked you? Has it stunned you that after if you're calling the kind of D-Day March 12th, well, today is April 13th, so let's call it a month, that in 1 month is this, and you're talking about crunching the numbers in the future. What in the world could 6 months hold?
I don't know that any of us know that. It's shocking, it's stunning, it's concerning, obviously. For the longer people are out of work, the greater the need is going to be. I'm very worried about those in our community, what the poverty and what the hunger is going to do to all of us. You know, the hunger and poverty is reaching people in great numbers right now, and I think the best that we can do is just to say, what can I do today to make my community better? What can I sacrifice? What can I do? How can I serve? And when we all do that together, we're going to come out the other side. We are, but the picture will look different for us, but we're going to all come out the other side.
And I guess the difference, Brett mentioned that you came from the Gulf Coast and you'd been with natural disasters before. That event occurs, and then there's a period of recovery. Well, this is everybody, and there is no timeline. That's probably the biggest difference between that and getting food to people who've been involved in some sort of a hurricane.
Right. Well, and I served Bay County, Panama City, during Hurricane Michael. So, but, you know, that was limited to a certain geographic location, right? Yeah. So I could call in the troops from all over the country.
Sure.
I had help from food banks from everywhere, Oregon, California. You know, all I had to do was say, this is what I need, because we're part of a Feeding America network. So all 200 food banks in the country that are part of that network, we're like family. So all I had to do was tell everybody what I needed, how many trucks, how many drivers, I needed food, I needed help, and they came from everywhere. But our whole country's in need at the same time, and who would have ever thought we would be here? It is shocking, but it's one of those things. Okay, this is where we are. This is what we're facing now. Let's, buckle down and work hard and do what we need to do. And this is the thing with food. Time is of the essence, right? People are hungry today, and people are going to be hungry tomorrow. So we just kind of look at it that way. What can we do today? How can we partner? How can we get more food out the door? How can we meet that need today and plan to meet that need tomorrow?
Kathy, what would normally be your busier time of the year? I don't know why I want to, and please correct me if I'm off. Why do I want to stereotype maybe around the holidays? But what would normally be your busiest time of the year, and what would be the poundage going out then?
I would say two different times. I would say summer is a little bit busier because when the children are home from school and they don't have access to free and reduced breakfast and lunch, that really strains a household that is already struggling. There was a statistic that came out fairly recently, maybe 6 months ago, that 40% of us cannot handle a $400 emergency. So that emergency would kind of throw us into a loop, right, of having to find out where to get money or where to get food. That's staggering that many people are living that close. So summer is tough because you've got more mouths to feed at home. And then, yes, around the holidays because, again, kids are out of school a little bit longer, than because of December and the break during Thanksgiving. And then, too, don't we think of holidays? We want everybody to have food to sit around the table with their family. And so that's kind of when people rally a little bit more. But, the reality is we face hunger 365 days a year. And this is just a tough time we're in right now. But again, we just all kind of have to buckle down and decide, what can I do? How can I help? Because this affects all of us. Our communities will be changed for a very long time.
We're talking with Kathy Pope, president of the Mid-South Food Bank. And I know there's a lot of detail and a lot of planning that goes in, and I'm certain that you don't have finite answers for this question, but as you are planning, are you given direction as to how long all of this might last?
We are kind of crunching numbers for what the next 6 months look like for us. And we are looking at needing to distribute, the number's so big, I don't know, but it's 3 million pounds a month. So that's almost 3 times what we were distributing during Blue Skies. And so that's about how far out we're looking, and that's a great amount of food, obviously. It's just an enormous amount of food. But that's what we're looking at. And then we're going to look a little more long-term about what that picture would look like.
Kathy, again, will you let our listeners know how they can help literally right now? After we say goodbye to you, they could go online and contribute.
Yes, I would really encourage them at whatever level. I mean, it doesn't matter. Every dollar helps. Every dollar helps provide 3 meals because we have some donated product and then we can purchase in bulk. So I really encourage you to go to midsouthfoodbank.org and click donate and just donate from your heart. What can you donate? And then continue to do so. Make it a monthly gift. Just think about the families that were struggling before this crisis, and then now we have so many more folks struggling. So I would say that any way that you can help, be part of the solution.
Kathy, thank you for your time today. We may reach out again or a couple of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more times with you, but we do appreciate you joining us today. Stay strong. You sound resolute, and I know you'll have to be in these times. But thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Kathy Pope with the Mid-South Food Bank letting us know of the very dire circumstances that the entire community really is in, Dave. And Drew, I'm trying to pot up Dave, and I can't.
I was stunned by the amount
Stunning.
So she basically said they are planning minimum of 6 months ahead with dire need, because she was saying $3 million a month. That's 18 million pounds of food. That struck me. And she's planning as if we will be in this position, which means unemployed and a lot of people hungry for the next 6 months. That's September. And, that's a little bit further than most of the models that we see, but that very, very clearly could be the reality. And I am pleased to know that that's the way they're planning, that we are going to be in these kind of circumstances where we need people's help for quite a while.
Yeah, and all the numbers are sobering. Of course, the most stunning and the most hurtful is a fatality and somebody ill, and the effect that has on so many people. Dave, when we go through that, it's at almost 23,000 now in the United States fatalities. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
23,000.
It's 23,000. Yes.
Just think of the number of people that touches. Friends,
goodness.
family, loved ones, co-workers, people that thought a little something of you. Just think of that number, and I know how very desolate and really alone they are at the end, because you can't have family there bedside trying to comfort you at the end, and then at the burial, at the funeral services are most austere. You can't have visitation, you can't have people there to comfort the family. But then, as Kathy mentioned, for the living, for the people that may not have been thriving 2 months ago, but they were existing, they were getting by, and now with this hurricane, pardon the pun, it's not a pun, pardon the phrase, after 1 month, we got people that despairing.
It does strike me. You hit a chord with me about people who, because of the pandemic, that their loved one goes to the hospital and they really can't visit with them, and those people are left alone to pass without the company of someone to say goodbye, and that really that saddens the heck out of me. There was a story I read yesterday of a very devoted young daughter who came right to the hospital and was allowed in, but right after her father had passed. And she was saying when she was packing up, she walked to her car and, she was basically trying to apologize to her father, who had already passed, but spiritually. And the interviewer said, well, why would you be doing that? And because I couldn't be there and he had to pass alone. And that just struck me. And you sort of echoed that same tone, and I'm not sure we've ever had these kinds of times. Certainly not in my lifetime.
No, I'm not either. Again, MidSouthFoodBank.org if you are of the ways and means to help. And it made sense when I asked the question about it. It's better for a donation. Look, do whatever you can do. If you can take a can of pork beans down there, I know they'll take it and they'll help, but they probably don't want to deal with, with social distancing. They probably don't want to deal with people, but if you can make any donation coupled with other monies, they've got the power of kind of the buying power to really help if you can. Mid-South Food Bank, if you want to donate, MidSouthFoodBank.org. Feeding the need is their mission statement, more so now than ever. When we come back, we wrap up hour number one. Start hour number two. We'll be our friend David Cobb from CBS Sports. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7 and 96.1.
Want to get your voice heard? Hit us up on the First Bank phone line or First Bank text line.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. And I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. So whether you rent or own, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and auto insurance. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico Easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
At AutoZone, we've always been there to help get you what you need when you need it, and that hasn't changed. That's why we want to let you know AutoZone stores are still open. Whether it's a quality part or a free battery test to help you stay on the road, we've got what you need. And if you do happen to need anything fast, we've got free store pickup inside the store or curbside, your choice, as well as next day delivery. Our stores are open and we're ready to help make the job easier. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Restrictions and details at AutoZone.com.
Hi, it's the Herd. There are some people who seem like they're prepared for anything. Got a cut, they got a Band-Aid. Need a battery? They'll have multiple sizes on hand. But if they're worried about identity theft and only monitoring their credit, they may not be as prepared as they think. Breaches seem like they're happening more these days. They are. And with your breached info, like your name, social security number, more criminals can commit identity theft. That's why LifeLock sees more threats, like somebody taking out a payday loan in your name, alerts you to a possible suspicious activity going on. And if you end up having an identity theft issue, you'll have a dedicated identity restoration specialist just a phone call away. Nobody prevents all identity theft or monitors all transactions at all businesses. Right now, join LifeLock. Save up to 25% off your first year. Go to LifeLock.com, promo code HERD. LifeLock.com, promo code HERD, 25% off.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
All the contingencies around sports, I'm sure, are multifaceted, Dave, with what the NBA, I'm sure they have a June plan, a July plan, an August plan. But at some point in all the plan, it has to be something appearing to be an expiration date for college football and the NFL. They have time on their side, but I don't think as much as most people really think. I don't think they have that much. They have more than baseball and basketball for sure. They have more than golf or the event that's planned in Fort Worth, which I just think any second Fort Worth will be canceled, and the week after that in where, and the Canadian Open. How are we going to have the Canadian Open when the United States border with Canada is currently closed?
I don't know how, and I'll go back. I still think we're. When is that the first one that is supposed to be in the books now is the PGA, correct?
No,
and
Charles Schwab.
No. I know, but the ones that are confirmed, because that was still an unconfirmed date.
Oh,
there was
the
a
confirmed date.
Confirmed date, I believe,
question.
is the PGA in September, and so I think in the back of the minds of all that are really leading the PGA Tour, and that's the commissioner for the most part. I think he's aware that there's still some months to go, and I think it's the one that's confirmed that's the first date is really the PGA, and
yes.
That probably will be the one. I think because economically, for the schools, college football is so critical to athletic departments that I'll go back to what I said to you about Lee Fowler's four scenario.
Chris Fowler.
Chris Fowler, yeah. The four scenario theories here. The one that would start late and be really a winter-spring sport is the one that probably is most doable at this point, unless it is just to cancel. But again, I will say to you, the economic model of college athletics is all based upon football bringing in 85% of the budget. So I think they're going to do everything they can to try to get that particular season in. There's one other, and we spend this first hour talking so much about the coronavirus, and we are committed to continuing to do that as long as we are doing this show during this pandemic. There's one area, Brett, that we really haven't touched on yet, and I'm going to be very honest with our listeners. I'm having a hard time finding someone, and that is the psychology aspect, the emotional toll the pandemic is having on all of us, from cabin fever to depression to people just getting arrested now for not following the rules of society in terms of being smart and distancing. And it is hard for me to find a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I've still got a couple of other names I'm going to try, and hopefully we'll have one this week. But everyone, and now there's 3 of them that I have attempted to secure as a guest, every one of them is slammed. People are having issues coping with what is going on. It is taking a toll that we really haven't talked about much.
Mm-hmm. We haven't, Dave, and it's again we have alluded, or we've directly referenced the layer upon layer upon layers that this story will entail, and the out years of it. I mean, it's not going to be just presto changeo, it's over, and we kind of look back and kind of think about having a COVID-19 party. I mean, that's not going to happen. And you're right. I'm so saddened by, and I've got a good friend of mine that works hand in glove and great work with the Little Rock chapter of Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, they can't meet, and there are people that have reached out to him that they're really struggling without that regular meeting, that regular dialogue, that regular talk it out session that they have. And through the years, Alcoholics Anonymous has just done some of the great work in history. From the 12-step program that's directly ripped from Scripture to try to get better, the Serenity Prayer. But there are many other organizations that are going through that and will go through that and will struggle. It's going to be again, kind of horrible word use, a hurricane, a tsunami of mental health issues out of this.
One last story, a good one that we can end today, or this first hour, I should say, on, and we've got plenty of good stuff coming up, including David Cobb here in a minute and Tim Doolin. I'm looking forward to chatting with both of those fine gentlemen. But today's the 50th anniversary, Brett, of Apollo 13. Houston, we have a problem.
And they did. They corrected it and got home.
And I was watching stories about it today. It to me is a true miracle, a miracle that those 3 gentlemen were able to get down. They had to actually, when the incident occurred, when the explosion on their module occurred, they were on their way to the moon. They actually ended up going around the moon. Of course, they couldn't land on the moon. They stayed in the part of the rocket ship that was not really the capsule, but was supposed to be for 2 people that was going to land on the moon. They had to go there because there was more oxygen there. And then when they did land, they were, of course, out of radio contact, and I forget how hot it gets. They weren't sure if the tiles would hold up. It's truly a miracle that they got down. And, we celebrate so much of the great accomplishment in the space story of America. This was really the failure, but we celebrate it so much because of the ingenuity that was used by NASA and those 3 cool heads on board that allowed them, and the odds were really, really against them to survive, to get back around the moon and all the way back down in re-entry through the atmosphere. It's truly a miracle that they made it.
It was. We believe in miracles, and St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes, and right now we got to believe in a whole lot of things. We believe this hour is up. Hour 2 starts with David Cobb from CBS. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7, and 96.1 FM.
Looking for a high-efficiency planting solution? The Case IH 2150 Early Riser Planter combines the industry's most accurate planter technologies with a rugged row unit for a fast and uniform emergence. The Case IH 2150 Early Riser operates at your speed and adapts to unique field conditions so that you can maximize your yield potential. Stop in or call Mid-South Ag Equipment at 662-890-3141 to learn more. That's Mid-South Ag, your Case IH Equipment headquarters.
Hi, it's Flo. And you know what word I don't get? Shampoo. The first half of the word is sham, and the second part you definitely don't want to see in the shower. That's why I made up a neat word, flotection. The feeling of security you get when your new house is protected by home insurance through me and Progressive. I mean, seriously, shampoo? What part of that makes you want to rub it all over your hair?
Save an average of 17% on car insurance when you bundle home and auto through Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Hilo Commercial Services can help protect your workplace and employees. Call Hilo Commercial Services today to help mitigate the dangerous effects of the coronavirus and the flu virus. Hilo offers complete deep cleaning and sanitizing services for schools, churches, medical facilities, office buildings, residential, warehouses, and more, all customized to your needs. Put safety first with Hilo Commercial Services. Call Philip right now at 901-277-6733. 901-277-6733. It's time for Hilo Commercial Services.
Sports 56 would like to recognize local businesses that are out there still feeding and providing for the community via curbside pickup. Let's support local business with your business. These local businesses include Central Barbecue, Sunrise, Sweetgrass, Humdingers, Germantown Commissary, Jason's Deli, Corky's, East Coast Wings, Moe's, and Soulfish Cafe. Sports 56 appreciates the support of local businesses always, but especially during this time. Thank you.
We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Hour number 2 starts on this Monday afternoon, April 13th, 2020, with David Cobb. We visit with David every Monday at this time. And Dave, looking forward to getting his thoughts on the scenarios from Chris Fowler. Kind of all the game day guys and the old game day guys have weighed in. We've had Reese weigh in. We've had Kirk Herbstreit weigh in. Chris Fowler's weighed in. Everybody's got an opinion, and nobody knows for sure, do they?
That is absolutely correct, and I do want to point out we've had a texter on the First Bank text line who says to me the model that he has seen, my information is wrong, it's 5 days away, and all I want to do is, and I understand this is not exact science, and we definitely don't want to give out information that some people may think is wrong. The Vanderbilt model and the model that the medical guidance that is being given to Shelby County from Lisa Haushalter says now it's late May into early June that Memphis will be peaking. So that's the model that they are going by now. The Vanderbilt model changed everything. We are flattening the curve, which means it's going out further. And Doug McCowan, who is the chief operating officer for Mayor Strickland, said that restrictions may be in place for another 30 to 60 days. So, because I believe this is the 24th that they had talked about that the safer at home restrictions were in place. Well, that's going to be extended. He's saying 30 to 60 days. So the peak is not going to happen in 3 or 4 days like we originally thought. I just wanted that to be clarified.
Yeah, and I referenced IHME, but you are correct. That is what Shelby County and city government is going by. You referenced that correctly, and then as an aside, I referenced IHME, and I think that's Bill Gates of Microsoft's group, but there are a lot of numbers out there, but it's the one that the powers that be go by that ultimately it redounds down to us. David Cobb from CBS joins us now. You can follow him on Twitter at David W. Cobb. Good afternoon, David Cobb. How are you, my friend?
Good afternoon. All things considered, doing pretty well. How about you guys?
Do you think someday we will be out of all the buzzwords of today? Social distancing, flattening of the curve, stay at home. Man, won't that be a liberating time?
One day, it sure will be. But it's kind of weird looking at some of the potential long-term ripple effects. I think it was John Calipari who tossed out the idea just within the last couple of days of never going back to doing post-game handshake lines after basketball games. I mean, that would be weird. So I don't know. We'll see what the long-term effects are on sports. But it will be nice when we finally get to the day when when we can just move on and have life again and have sports.
Here's one from college sports that you can probably say goodbye to: road roommates.
Yeah, and I can see a real. It was funny. Derek Dooley, when he was the coach of Tennessee, and I was a student there at the time, and he was big into, and he got made fun of, and rightfully so. But maybe maybe this could be his comeback, because he was all about shower discipline, is what he called it, and hygiene, and making that a staple of the program. And it was just a funny thing that was one of his quirks at the time. But there might be a real uptick in that realm now, because if we're going to play this season, you got to imagine there's going to be some really intense mitigation measures in place to make sure it doesn't spread throughout the locker rooms.
Well, we all three know this. The public may not, but we do. We know how very sacrosanct and yielding to health most facilities are. Locker rooms, be it basketball or football, a lot of times the teams they line them all up and give them the flu shots. But also we know how very clean they want those locker rooms, because first and foremost they're so very scared of staff.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're not. I mean, I don't think, from my experience, in the locker rooms are necessarily filthy places, but you just think about the proximity of the people and in this environment. I mean, sports could very well be one of the first groups of people that are together. And I'm not even talking about the fans, but if any of these proposals from any of the leagues go through, I mean, it'll be the first sort of sanctioned, organized group gatherings of any significance in our country. So, I mean, I don't even know what that might look like. I mean, I read an article about how they're restarting basketball in Taiwan, and one of the player development assistants on this Taiwanese basketball team gives them normally you would hand them a water bottle when they come over for the timeout. Now they spray their hands with hand sanitizer every time they walk over to the bench. So it's going to be a weird time whenever we do get back to it.
Your point taken well about the locker rooms, because I think we can trace some cases. Was it with Brooklyn in the NBA? There was a hockey team. I think it all came back to the Staples Center and locker rooms there, where you're really going to have to be very vigilant, and there will be new procedures of sanitation that I suspect will be put in place.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of got our country really in tune with how serious it was Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert was first, and then it came out that Donovan Mitchell had it, and obviously, there's been some reports that relationship may not be on the best footing even now, several weeks later, because, I mean, as you can imagine, Donovan Mitchell was not happy with the fact that Rudy Gobert was, joking around about it.
Right.
And in so doing, likely spread it to Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I guess it's possible that Mitchell actually had it first and that Gobert got it from him by, having unnecessary contact. But, I mean, I think that's, and especially today, you see just a very tragic that Karl Anthony Towns' mother has passed away due to complications from the disease. So when it comes to the NBA, I think those guys especially are going to be very cautious and very cognizant of the potential spread of it.
So Jalen Green on Thursday, he's moved it up. He is going to declare. You're brilliant, David Cobb. Tell me, where's he going?
I like Memphis. I mean, I think when you look at the way that Penny's conserved a couple of scholarships here, I mean, they don't have a single. I mean, obviously they got the JUCO guy, Ahmad Rand, but after signing 7 players last season, I mean, they haven't signed a single freshman in this class. And I think that they've played it conservatively on purpose and saved a couple of spots for Jalen Green and Greg Brown. And I like the chances of at least getting one of them. I mean, that's I'm writing something that's going to come out tomorrow about since the I guess what is kind of the late signing period starts on Wednesday, what are some of the biggest things to watch? And my number one thing to watch is going to be can Penny Hardaway make another splash? because if you're looking at it right now, you're saying what's going on, and I think that the fact of the matter is they've played their hand to really rely on getting one of or both of Jalen Green and Greg Brown, and this is kind of the moment of truth now, because that's pretty much it. I mean, in terms of quality guys left out there who they could realistically get. So we'll see, but this is a huge week for Penny. I mean, they'll still be all right if they don't get either of them, because he's done a really good job of keeping the roster intact. But if they kind of want to keep the momentum going, I guess, getting one of those guys is going to be crucial, I think.
You use the word splash. Let's play the what if, and it's a little bit auspicious. It's a little bit crazy. Let's say they get Jalen Green and Greg Brown, and Moussa Cisse reclassifies, and he signs with the Tigers, and Precious Achua returns. Wouldn't opening night be more anticipated than the most anticipated opening night in Tiger basketball history? And haven't we heard that before?
You'd have to lose two guys right off the bat. You're overextended on scholarships.
Yeah,
well, I think we can find a spot for them.
Well, we got to. I guess they can pull Jaden off the scholarship. I don't even know what the rules are there. But yeah, it'd be a little tricky to pull that one off. But certainly, I mean, heck, I think even if they got just Brown and Green, or Cisse and Green, or Cisse and Brown, I
agree. 2 out of the 3.
Either. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would make, especially because, and I'm putting this in the section of the story that I'm writing on the Tigers, especially with the cloud now looming overhead, with them being the first program to go through the NCAA's new, independent adjudication process and all that, and what we don't know about that, and all the uncertainties that come with that. If they could sort of continue to recruit at a high level, even in spite of that cloud, I think it would be huge for the momentum of the program. I don't want to be doomsday, but if they don't get either of those guys, I think that might be a bad sign. I think it could be a sign that investigation and the cloud, that it brings is starting to have some influence on the thinking of some of the top prospects, because I think the staff really believes they're in good position with one of the two of those guys, and maybe both, but you obviously 2-3 months ago weren't necessarily accounting for this investigation, and how much those guys actually care about that, I don't know, because they both probably are hoping to be one and done, and the NCAA generally moves so slowly that it might not even affect them. But man, if they got both, and they've got the scholarships for both, it would, especially with nothing else going on in the news cycle right now here, the hype, the discussion, the passion, and the anticipation for it, I think would be right back up there, right back where it was.
Bigger than last year.
Maybe.
Dave?
There was a little history that was made this past weekend, and that is Tamara Moore becomes the first women head coach of a men's college basketball team at Mesabi Range College in Minnesota. She's also going to be the softball coach too. But I think this is really cool. I know, David, that you wrote about this. Give me your impression. This is history.
Yeah, that came across the radar last night. It is historic, but I want to be sure it was kind of a labor to figure out how to phrase it, because you don't want to proclaim somebody the first and to do something and then find out later that they're not. So to kind of have to comb through the archives and figure out, okay, has there been a woman that's been a college head coach before? And there has been. It was a junior college head coach back in the 90s at a community college in New York who did it. And then another one here in Tennessee is the athletic director at Tennessee State, Teresa Phillips, whose son actually went on to be a pretty good football player at Tennessee. Anyway, she was the AD at Tennessee State and got in a position where she had to fire the men's basketball coach, and she had an extensive coaching background and stepped in for a game. So it's been done before, but this is the first one in a long time, and it kind of feels like now maybe we're starting to see more of a trend, and it's here in Memphis as well with Neil Ivey, who's on the Grizzlies staff. She's one of 11 NBA assistants who are women this season, which is a record. It's just been slow in terms of the trend getting to the college game, and so I guess that's kind of what this one is. I mean, look, this is a Division III JUCO in northern Minnesota. So nobody's going to, mistake it for a D1 job, but it's something that we haven't seen very often. That I think is probably reflective of a trend that's becoming a little bit more prevalent here, especially over the last few years.
Yeah,
well, for me, the interesting thing is that she is a head coach. We know there are several assistant coaches, and it started with San Antonio, but not a head coach. And I'm assuming that will happen in my lifetime. I hope it does. But this is the first time, because I don't remember any women assistants in the men's game at this point, and she's not an assistant, but she's the head coach, albeit Division III.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think people bat an eye as much to it anymore because, people like Greg Popovich have gone out there on a limb to, make a way for other women to have opportunities to coach in basketball. And so, I think in the society we live in now, I mean, maybe some prospects will kind of, have an issue with it or whatever. But I feel like a lot of people are going to see this Tamara Moore's resume and say, well, she played in the Big Ten and she played in the WNBA. And, I mean, if you're looking at going to a Division III junior college, who are you going to play for at that level that has any more relevant basketball experience than that? I mean, because there's not going to be, any other coach that's had that level of experience, in the game. So, I mean, I think it could be obviously a good move for her career, but it could be the start of a trend maybe in college sports where it's been a little bit slower to catch on.
Yeah, Kentucky had a female assistant coach under Rick Pitino and
that's right,
and Bernadette Locke. But
there's only one at the moment, a main assistant. Anisha Curry is the only one at this point that's an assistant in all of college basketball.
But David, I'm with you on it. It's trailblazing, and I'm surprised it hadn't happened more yet. But this person being named that coach in Minnesota is not exactly Frank Robinson being named manager of Cleveland in baseball.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you make note of it because it is significant, but take it for what it is. It's a Division III junior college. I mean, it would be like, probably a level below a Southwest Tennessee community college or something like that. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small blip on the radar, but it's significant nonetheless. So, kudos to her. It'll be interesting to see if you're going to have success. Because like it or not, no matter how small the gig is, you're going to be under a larger microscope, and may not necessarily be fair, but the job that she does may have some impact on whether or not the next woman gets an opportunity to be a head coach.
David, when we talk about the scenarios around college football, and Chris Fowler weighed in today, and many have weighed in now on a delayed start, a late February with a May bowl season, a May college football playoff. College basketball, it doesn't feel like there's any way it can start in November and have the November-December period. I wonder when a college basketball beginning would be, and would we take college basketball over the course of the spring semester, kind of maybe start in April or May and into the summer months for next year?
Well, there's some people that argue that college basketball shouldn't even start until January anyway. In the minds of a lot of people, it doesn't. But realistically, yeah, I saw today, like, Boston University. Granted, they're not a major conference program, but, it's a Division I school nonetheless, and their administration is suggesting that students won't be on campus in this calendar year. And so, assuming that applies to student athletes as well, you start looking at stuff like that, and you just think that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be more to come. And I shy away from making any predictions just because, we've gotten our hopes up already for so much and have kind of started to realize, the realities of the situation. And I don't know. I really don't. But I'm really curious to see how it plays out in college basketball for this reason. There are more guys in the transfer portal right now than maybe ever before. And then they're also considering this one-time exemption rule that could go into effect as soon as the season that would allow guys to not have to sit out. I'm just curious to see how it's all going to play out because you've got a lot of stuff going on right now in college basketball, kind of on the periphery, that it's just going to be chaos for people to figure it out. I mean, in all honesty.
I don't think Dave would be opposed. I don't think Dave would be opposed to the college basketball season if everything went swimmingly. The college basketball season starting about May, and the Tigers take that. What's that preseason trip they're going on? Is it Bahamas or where, Dave?
It is to it is to the Bahamas. It's I'm trying to remember the name of that great place. We've been there once
Maui
before.
Classic in May, David.
Yeah. Oh no,
nice.
it's not Maui. We hope is
had
coming at some point. No, this is the one. It's in the Bahamas, Atlantis. It's the battle for Atlantis that Memphis is scheduled to play. And here is what I think could truly happen. I can see where you have to wait till the second semester, right? Because students aren't going to be allowed, possibly, to be on campus for fall. So they're taking online classes. Once that's over, you could immediately come in, have a quick week and a half, 2-week training camp, and then start your season sometime in December. And I don't know if you would do away with a lot of the non-conference games. For the non-conference tournament games in November would all go away. But you could still play some non-conference games. You probably need to for the economics of a lot of these smaller schools that come and get $100,000 for a bye game, and a lot of their budgets are set up by doing 3, 4, 5 of those. So you might have a couple of those, and then you would get into conference games. Maybe you wouldn't play 31 games, which is what we've been playing before the tournaments. Maybe you'd end up playing 25 games, and I'm just throwing that number out because you would lose all of November to play games. But some of this could be made up that way along the way, and I still think their priority, especially amongst the Power Five, is going to be making sure you get some football in, because I go back to, like you always do with all these stories, you trace the money. 85% of college athletics at the Power 5 level, their budget is derived from football.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things that I think are interesting. One thing that I think could ultimately maybe be a positive if you want to try and find one out of all this, is on the basketball side, could this be the impetus to really renew some of the regional non-conference rivalries? Because people are going to be watching their budgets, and so maybe Memphis can play Arkansas State.
I've said it for football.
Mississippi State, well, in football too. I think in basketball, the state of Tennessee has so many good college programs: ETSU, Belmont, Austin Peay, Lipscomb, ETSU, Chattanooga's been pretty good. But these schools don't play the power schools in the conference for whatever reason. I think it's the fault of the power schools, but maybe we can get back to doing some of that. So that's one thing that I'm excited about, and that would be cool to carry it over into football too. It's just football scheduling is done so far out, it'll just take longer. And then on the football side, I mean, this is more of a pipe dream, but it's fun to think about, is let's say we get to a point where it's sort of piecemeal state by state whether or not schools are in session and whether or not they're playing sports. Well, we all know how important football is to the SEC. Let's just retract into an SEC only season where everybody plays everybody, and you've got a 13-game season. That would just be absolutely unreal. That's sort of my dream scenario for college football, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Well, I agree, and I wanted it in great economic times for the consumer that wants to go to these games. All these schools need to get out a map and play somebody in the general area. If it means home and home, that's fine. If it means You got to travel in college basketball, fine. I wish more scheduling was done, and I know why it wasn't done in the high old times, in the heyday of the pot's never going to go dry, because you didn't have to. When now everybody's going to have to schedule for football and basketball very similarly to how they schedule for spring non-revenue producing sports, David.
Yeah, like I covered Tennessee baseball for a couple of seasons, and you know what? They played ETSU and Tennessee Tech and Western Carolina and all these regional schools.
Sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And because you can get on a bus, you can be there. A lot of the kids that are on those regional teams are from the metropolitan area of the major university. And it just makes sense. Exactly. And so, I've always had this in my head. I think it'd be so cool. I think there's 12 Division I men's basketball programs in the state of Tennessee. I always think it would be so cool if they had a tournament and the top 4 teams from the net ranking in the year before get a first round bye, and everybody's guaranteed at least 2 or 3 games, even if you lose, and you get together somewhere for a couple of days and you play it out. I just think that would be great. Maybe we can get back to the table on something like that and start to get some of those regional rivalries going. Who knows? One thing I haven't heard discussed that I think would be awesome is if Tennessee and Memphis, if it just kind of brought Rick Barnes back to the table instead of, going out somewhere and getting a bye game or whatever. If he were to just say, you know what, let's keep this thing with Memphis going. Budgets might be tight. We can meet up in Nashville again, like we're going to do in this next season or whatever. But I mean, that's a rivalry that should continue, and maybe all of this can bring about a little bit more of that kind of stuff.
Maybe
I would love for those rivalries to continue, no question about it. Thank you, David. We appreciate it. Stay healthy.
Thanks, guys. Will do.
David Cobb, who you can read. He's got the story about Ms. Moore right there on CBS Online. This hour of the show presented by our title sponsor, proud to have Genesis of Olive Branch and Homer Skelton Hyundai. And right now, with this pandemic, they're still doing a lot of business. I was amazed. I went down there. I think I told you last week. I now have a G70. I'm very proud of that car. Most of the people who have seen that car have said that is the most beautiful car you have ever owned. It is rather flashy and pretty, I will confess. But right now, 0% financing for 84 months. That's a long time where you pay no interest on your new Hyundai or your new Genesis, and you don't make the first payment for the first 120 days. That means on select models, you don't have to pay for 3 months, and you're getting 84 months interest-free. This is why they're the standard of the way the car business is, and it should be done. You just go take a look. Get on Lamar into Mississippi. You make a left at Craft Road, that's the very first exit. You'll see Chris True and all the gang, and take a look at those Genesis cars. You will love what you see. Every one of them lasts forever. They're so good looking. All the technology that's in them, and as I mentioned, they last. How about a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every car on the lot? All you got to do is get there. Go check it out. You'll love it. That's Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. We are back in just 1 minute, and when we do, we'll talk a little baseball with our friend Tim Doolin. He's next on Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz, right here on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight. exclusively FedEx. When we put them in nice packaging, we don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
Freeboard has been extended through March 31st. Hi, I'm John Conway with Conway Services. Are you considering replacing your heating and air conditioning system this spring? Conway Services and Carrier have teamed up to make now the perfect time. Our warehouse is full and our crews are slow, so to spark business during these slow winter months, Conway Services is giving away Carrier 80% gas furnaces absolutely free with the purchase of a standard Carrier air conditioning system. That's right, purchase a Carrier air conditioning system before March 31st and get the gas furnace absolutely free. If that's not enough, we'll include an April air cleaner, a 10-year parts warranty, and a free Nest thermostat, plus 12 months interest free. See why I still call it February through March 31st? And you know with Conway Services, you'll be receiving our award-winning service every time. So call Conway Services, the Mid-South's premier heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric service company at 384-3511. And the first 30 callers with a 10-year-old air conditioning system will come out and inspect it absolutely free.
Call 384-3511. Conway Services. Call Conway today.
Listen Sundays at 11 a.m. to join Idlewild Presbyterian Church for worship. Idlewild is a PCUSA church located in Midtown Memphis.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Ocean and Brett Norsworthy.
Thank you, Drew Barrett. And we are very pleased now to visit with our friend Tim Doolin on all things baseball. And baseball last week making a lot of noise with a plan about having where they're going to pick up and play. Tim Doolin joins us now. Tim, you got terrible background noise. If you could take us off Bluetooth, we'd appreciate it.
That better?
Tim? That's much better. How are you?
Very
How
good.
are you, our friend?
I'm good. Sorry about that.
Good. That's okay. Hey, it's all a work in progress these days. I see people on TV, everybody's off site and the satellite will blip and the Bluetooth will blip, and I'm thinking, welcome to our world. We know about dealing with technical things, but we're glad to have you on this afternoon. And Rob Manfred went out there last week with a plan. We talked about it some with you week before last. I just don't see how one central spot's going to work. Now there's even the plan of kind of cactus against grapefruit. Right now, I don't want to rule anything in or out.
Well, I don't think that the latter is going to be the option because Major League Baseball talked today a little bit about the fact that you're going to have serious challenges with probably dealing with 2 governors or 2 states versus 1. And I think Arizona is the more likely choice if that happens. And keep in mind, I think the hope would be obviously to play in Arizona until maybe a couple of months worth, and then hopefully things are back to some form of normalcy and they can get back to their relative stadiums and not have fans, but although they would be at their home, which would be a lot more convenient, a lot more conducive to the players than staying in Arizona the whole time.
I don't know if you ever got to meet or knew Glenn Beckert, and Brett, you may have because, of course, he was part of the double play combination with your friend and Forest City native Don Kessinger, but Glenn Beckert passed away at the age of 79. I think he was an all-star 4 straight years in a row in the late 60s, early 70s.
That was the second shortstop duo for the National League a lot of those years, and they were rock solid. Leo DeRocher, or whoever the skipper was of the Cubs, he knew second base Glenn Beckert, shortstop Don Kessinger.
Well, let me tell you something. I was fortunate enough as a high schooler to have Donnie work with me a little bit, and I remember, I was very young, but I remember seeing highlights of him, and and his grandson, I tell you, Gray is not far behind defensively. Donnie was a great player, and obviously they had a great double play combination, some really good teams back in the day.
They did, Dave. I'm sorry. I don't. The Cubs. You look at those lineups. I mean, Santo at third and Donnie Kessner at short, Beckert at second, Ernie Banks at first. They always had Randy Hundley at center, sweet swinging at catcher, sweet swinging Billy Williams in right. I don't remember a great center fielder for those teams, and I don't. It doesn't come to me who the best Cub all-time center fielder is either. It's not Bobby Denier, is it?
They've never had a really that great center fielder. On those great teams where Billy Williams was in left, Adolfo Phillips, I believe, was the right fielder.
Billy Williams in left, yeah.
Yeah, Billy Williams was the left fielder. Yeah, what is interesting is the only reason Glenn Beckert ended up being prominent with the Cubs was that the Cubs, prior to getting Beckert, they had a guy named Kenny Hubbs, who was killed in an automobile accident.
Yeah, after being rookie of the year.
Right around spring training. He was a young guy who they thought was going to be a superstar.
He had been rookie of the year in the National League, and then he was killed. Hey, Tim, I just hit the Google, and it reminds me, of course, I can remember 1970 better than I can 2016. Cub best all-time center fielder, it's really easy. It's Dexter Fowler.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's probably right. That's probably on the money.
I guess somebody that brings, both defense and the ability to hit from both sides of the plate, and I'm sure during his prime years, obviously, and he had those in Chicago.
I got to go back to this question about playing with crowds or not crowds, and I found it interesting. What was the number? I think, Brett, it was it 10.7 or 11.7 billion that baseball brought in last year. It was one of the great years of all time.
I think around 11, yeah.
And yet only $4 billion came out of that from fans in the stands, including parking and concessions.
Well, I think that's why you're seeing such a push to get on TV. We're yearning for something live, obviously for baseball. And I think that's why they're trying to explore every possible way to because fans are gonna be able to buy stuff online and spend money. But like you said, I think the biggest portion of it is probably going to be from your advertising money.
I guess though, if you're a player, a wife, say, or a mother or father, and you're going to say to your son, the athlete, wait a second. It's not safe for fans to go to games, but it's safe for you to go there? What do you answer? What do you say to that?
I think what they're going to have to do before they make this decision at all is that they're going to have to be able to test every person that is getting anywhere in close proximity to the stadium, whether
to the bat boy.
TV people or whatever, and they're going to have some really drastic things happen in a positive way over the next 2 weeks to entertain that. I think you're spot on, but in the same regard, I think there's a lot of good that's coming from it that we're really not hearing. A lot of people are doing okay after going through it.
Well, I'm hearing that too, Tim, but I also hear from younger people that had a touch or had it. I mean, you either have it or you don't. They had it, confirmable by the test, and they say, they're getting over it, but it was like getting hit by a freight train.
Well, look, the union's not going to agree to anything to put players in jeopardy, because then, the next thing you know, there's going to be lawsuits like crazy. I'm just, again, like everybody, I'm just hoping and praying that we continue to make progress, because I think people are discounting the fact that not being able to work and function, you're going to see a lot more babies being born. You're going to see more divorces. You're going to see more of all kind of bad stuff happening. I mean, there's people literally, killing themselves over it because, so it's there's a lot of, it's just a bad deal.
Well, we referenced this poll earlier, which actually comes from the Seton Hall University Stillman School of Business, where they had a small sample size, 762 respondents, but 72% of Americans said they wouldn't go to a sporting event until there's a vaccine. We know there's not a vaccine for a year to a year and a half.
I know. I saw the same thing, and that's.
But Dave, that 762 sample size, that's really not that small. A lot of presidential sample size in polling, it comes from a number of around that. They've really got it factored out for people to respond to. I'm looking right now, about 959 registered voters at the last Reuters poll.
Huh. Well, so they do. So it's a science where they know exactly the amount of demographics, education-wise, and everything else. They pick it out, and they think they get the sample size that is clearly demonstrative of what will happen. I guess Tim, we get Tim back here. Tim, are you with? And you have so many different major league connections. What are you hearing from them, or are they just guessing like you and I are?
No, I mean, I talked to several on all fronts, from scouts to I talked to assistant GM the other day. I talked to obviously Dan O'Dowd, very well connected, and I talked to guys that are dealing, that are agents that are dealing with the scouts and talking to the union. It's all over the map, Wolo. I mean, I don't think everything that we're seeing and hearing and everybody's talking about. It's merely speculation because we don't know what's going to happen over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks.
And Tim, when you reference Dan O'Dowd, I like it because I know y'all are tight, and I know he's plugged in, and I know I like his very calming voice, reassuring voice when he's on MLB Network. I hate to pigeonhole you like this, but is he one of the more optimist or wait and see types?
He's such a realist. I mean, he's always been that way. I mean, I've known this guy since 1991. Had both his boys play in our organization, so I mean, he's much like he is on TV. He's very grounded, and he's opinionated in what his convictions are. But when it comes to things like this, he wouldn't speculate. He'll talk about his ideas and thoughts, but he thinks it's important to get back to work in a safe manner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and everything's scotched in safety, naturally. What do you think roster sizes will look like out of the gate if and when baseball starts?
Oh, my gosh. I think it's gonna be somewhere around the number of like 30, but they're going to have an open door where they're not going to have to take guys, off the 40-man and putting them on and taking them off because you're going to need so many pitchers just to make sure you're protecting the arms, and I think the union's going to push that.
Yeah.
And catchers.
Well, you're going to have some catchers, especially if you're playing double headers. There's no doubt you're going to have to be able. Like I said, I think 30, and then they're going to have some all kind of variables that they're going to allow, teams to move players around to make sure that we're safe and healthy.
We had Steve Selby on last week. What would have been opening night for the Redbirds in minor league baseball, and he really believes there will still be, if there's Major League Baseball, there will be AAA baseball because those players that they'll need to come and tap in need to get innings. What is your sense of what kind of minor league season we might have?
I think it's going to be a little bit shorter than the major leagues simply because we don't know how long that how they're going to keep everybody together before they actually breaks. They could keep a lot of those AAA players at the spring training site on auxiliary fields playing and training and things like that. So I think that needs to be massaged a little bit. I do think that there'll be the full season A teams will play some version of the season. I think AA and AAA will. I think if they open up the gates for Major League Baseball, you'll see minor league teams having games.
And then at your level, what are the Doolin Dodgers planning for? I mean, at this point, you can't have any kind of mass gatherings. You couldn't even put a team close together.
No, you can't. You cannot. We're actually communicating to all our guys because we got them in several different states. It's like, look, you got to control what you can control. Make sure you're staying in shape in a safe environment. If it's you going and running yourself or playing long toss with someone where you're not in close proximity or getting your swings by yourself off the tee, we got to prepare. Typically, we don't start until around the first part of June anyway. So we're just telling everybody to sit tight. You know, we think we're going to have some form of a summer. Is the schedule going to be as vibrant and big as it was prior to all this happening? No, it'll be a condensed version of the schedule. However, we can take it into August when we typically finish in July. So just for the simple fact, it's okay for high school guys to play in the fall versus, you know, when school starts versus, you know, some of the college players.
Tim, thank you so much for your time
Crazy
today.
time.
We'll catch up with you at your regular time on Thursday. Thank you for being with us today.
All right. Absolutely, guys. Thanks.
Take care, Tim.
Be safe.
Thank you. Be healthy. We appreciate it. I'll let everybody know this portion of the show brought to you by the commissary. Okay, you've been cooped up all weekend long. You know that you could still get your barbecue. I know. You've probably been cooking. You're trying to be good about that. A lot of us have. But don't you miss that barbecue. Don't you miss the commissary. You don't have to. You can pick it up, both locations. Real easy at the newer location. Of course, that's Poplar, Houston, Loveview Road. That's the Collierville commissary, and they got the drive-thru. And the drive-thru stays pretty busy, especially around dinner time. But if you were to go now or on your way, easy. And it makes it so simple. You can even call ahead, give your credit card number so you don't have too much exchanging going on, and they're very, very conscientious about sanitation. It's curbside at the Germantown commissary in the quaint little area, downtown Germantown. You know that little spot, old Germantown. And then again, you can call in or you can do it either way, but they'll bring it out to you. They'll put it in the car. They're very conscientious. You can still have your ribs. You can still have your pulled shoulder. You can still have your icebox lemon pie or your banana pudding. The commissary still in business, both locations, Germantown and Collierville. We take the break. We'll come back and put a wrap on this, the second hour of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ. Listen to us daily on AM 560, 96.1 FM, or 87.7 FM.
You'll see the dedication in every single step. You'll see it in the smiles when smiles are hard to get. You'll see it in the little things that add up to success. The caring and passion are the things that we love best.
Wolf Chase Limb Brace is your Mid-South provider for orthotics and prosthetics. They are an ABC-accredited facility, and their practitioners are ABC certified. At Wolf Chase Limb Brace, their services include artificial limbs, legs and arms, braces of all kinds, and custom molded inserts. You can call them today at 901-507-7821 for their location on Highway 64 in between Germantown Parkway and Appling Road, or visit them at their new location in Jackson, Tennessee. That number is 731-660-5900, or visit them on the web at wolfchaselimbembrace.com.
Wolf Chase Limb and Brace.
Not a big talker. I am a big doer. But sometimes the only way to solve the problem is to get on the horn and figure it out. So the only people I like talking to? Grainger. With knowledgeable product experts, ready with the answers to my toughest questions, calling Grainger is the one conversation I don't mind having. From machining and motor parts to valves and vacuum pumps. When it comes to solving my problems, Grainger's got my back. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Central Barbecue is committed to the health and safety of this community, who has supported Central for almost 20 years. Central Barbecue is still open for business with to-go and delivery options to serve the greater Memphis area with the same great barbecue you have come to know and love. With 4 locations to serve you, from downtown, midtown, and East Memphis, you can order your favorite barbecue and enjoy everything on the menu in the comfort of your own home. Call your nearest Central Barbecue location for more information on delivery and to-go options today.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Dave, the Google machine also says Hack Wilson as all-time Cubs center fielder, and he was, but I was talking about anything resembling a modern era. It was a long ago period for Hack Wilson, and yes, he was a very, very prominent player. The Google machine also popped up this one, Rick Mundy.
Yeah, Yeah, I think more. I don't know why. I think more,
Dodgers.
Of the
Rick
Dodgers with the Brick Monday, exactly. Yeah, it's funny that you say that.
Athletics
I mean,
before
Hack
that.
Wilson. You know who I remember talking about Hack Wilson? My dad, who was born in 1920. I mean, Hack Wilson. That's a long. That's 100. That's literally 100 years ago.
Hack Wilson was your dad's guy, I bet.
Oh, he loved him.
I bet.
Loved him.
I bet that was
my dad was a kid when Hack Wilson was the star. I think.
Exactly, and that's when a lot of the sports brain gets formed at 10
Sure.
and 15 years old, and that's when Hack Wilson was starring on the north side of Chicago. No, I was sad to hear the Glenn Beckert news. He did not come to Far City the day of Donnie Kessinger Day because he was busy with baseball. But I remember he sent a telegram.
Did he really? Did Ron Santa show up for that, or probably Ron was doing games on radio?
He was. He was busy as well. A couple did, and a couple from Ole Miss did. But both Beckert and Donnie Kessinger, they threw them in there as young guys. I mean, they spent very little time in the minors before that was their established second base shortstop duo. And both getting old and Donnie being able to play shortstop, it precipitated the move to first base for Ernie Banks from shortstop.
Right, exactly. I think Fergie Jenkins was a pretty good friend of Glenn Beckert's too.
Oh yeah, and Dave, if the playoffs were like they are now, of course, there wasn't as many teams then. But if you'd have just had a single wild card, who knows that if the Cubs now. The year they blew the big lead, statistically they finished 8 games back of the Mets. They actually finished closer to fourth than they really did to first. But who knows that psychologically, okay, get your bearings straight. We didn't win the division, but we punched the wild card ticket. A lot of these all-time records, the Yankees having all those titles, would not have happened. The Red Sox would not have gone all those years with the World Series futility, or the Cubs either.
I agree.
They would have squeezed in.
Well, 69, that was a great baseball team, and I always feel bad for them. Of course, Beckert was a part of that. That was a team that I thought could have been one of the best in baseball. And, that was one of the great collapses. I think it's considered the second greatest collapse other than the 50s Phillies. Yeah.
64 Phillies, just a few years before that.
64 Phillies, okay. Yeah.
And the irony there is I want to blame a lot of the Cubs, both that collapse and that great lineup that we just went through in Ferguson Jenkins as the ace. They had a pretty good relief guy and a real good relief guy in Phil Regan, other good starters. I want to blame a lot of it on I never liked and never trusted Leo DeRocher as a manager, but the Phillies, they had Gene Mauch. Gene Mauch was a much better manager than Leo DeRocher.
Well, I thought Leo was okay. I know there are a lot of people that think he misused the pitchers. A lot of people think that part of the reason the Cubs' futility lasted as long as it did was because of all the day baseball games, where their body clocks were always off because half the time they were playing at night when they were on the road, and then they had to come back and play all the day games, and that was in the heat of the summer. And there were a lot of people thought that that was a total disadvantage for the Cubs. Now, that would not be a good excuse for the Boston Red Sox, but that was a part of the rationale that a lot of people used about the north side of Chicago.
I think the excuse for the Red Sox were you were going against a colossus. I mean, going against those pinstripes and that spending, and they've always spent like that. It's just not the money now. I've told you this story off the air, but I've read a great book about the Cardinals, about the Gas House Gang, and Leo DeRocher was a prominent member of those teams, and that really nasty guy. And that Dizzy Dean didn't like him. And Dizzy Dean knew he was stealing cash money from him. So one day, Dizzy Dean, he marked the bills and goes to his pockets. They're gone. His trousers hanging up in his locker. And he goes to Leo DeRocher and he goes, "Leo, I know you're stealing from me." He said, "How dare you accuse me of it?" He said, "Pull your money out." And he pulls his money out, and it was all marked, and Dizzy Dean whipped him on the spot.
Wow. Yeah, I remember you telling me that story, and I was trying to remember the Leo DeRocher And he was a tough guy, but
he was
obviously wasn't as tough as Dizzy.
No, Diaz, and he always had Paul, the brother, coming in to help him out. You know, Dave, we were talking with Tim Doolin about baseball and it getting started back because of the spread out nature of baseball. Even confining them to one centralized location. Tim mentioned all the different governors and the jurisdiction. I just don't think the governor of California would allow sports teams to travel out of his state to play.
Well, that's a question I haven't even considered. I thought it was actually a bold move and a strong move by the governor of Arkansas, who decided that he was going to limit travel into the state. And if I wanted to come to Forest City and visit you, I couldn't stay in a hotel because he does not want out-of-towners coming for short-term stays.
No, and he, as in a former job, he was originally Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security. Right after 9/11, he left his seat in Congress to become that under the direction of Governor Tom Ridge from Pennsylvania. No, he's been very out in front, but yet we're still not as locked down as a lot of places. It's just not the entry from other places. I mean, he's kind of closed the border.
Well, we are in for an interesting next couple of months because there are going to be people who are going to be chomping at the bit psychologically, all ready to go and to open up this country. And you're going to have the doctors of the world, the Dr. Fauci's, the Dr. Jane, who we hope to have, by the way, on Wednesday, that are going to be going, if we open this up too soon, all the progress that we've made, all the lives that we've made, that we've saved, it will be reversed. And so, to me, I don't know what the right answer is. I have to go with what the doctors say, but I think it's going to be a real battle that will unfold before our very eyes. And I hope that we are cautious as a nation.
And Dave, I think to this point, if you just wanted to be super fair, you could say, okay, maybe got a little late on this, got a little late on that. Okay, not really play the blame game. You open too soon and you have deaths, then you could make a case for people having blood on their hands then, and I think the politicians will be scared of that naturally so, but more so that they don't want another death to arise from it. Third and final hour starts. Yeah, third and final hour starts with our friend Charles Davis. He's up next. You're listening to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats on AM 560, 87.7, and 96.1.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
I've got a snack that'll add a little kaboom to your keto diet. Or would that be keto boom? Either way, Southern Recipe small batch pork rinds have the bold flavor that outshines other low-carb snacks. And if keto's not your thing, you'll still love the high protein these rinds deliver. Flavors like Korean kimchi barbecue, honey chipotle, pineapple ancho chili, and more. Visit porkrinds.com to find your flavor boom.
Visit your local Kroger today for your Southern Recipe small batch pork rinds.
Did you know nearly 40% of men under 40 and over 75%
5% of men over the age of 40 experience sexual performance concerns. At the Memphis Men's Clinic, their experienced physician performs a comprehensive evaluation that determines which specific issues may interfere with your sexual performance. These issues can vary and range from anxiety to medical issues, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction. The Memphis Men's Clinic has evaluated hundreds of men of all ages over the years and reestablished a normal sexual life. The Memphis Men's Clinic will work aggressively to resolve issues and allow you to restore your sexual health and overall well-being. That's the Memphis way. If you're 20 years old or 90 years old, come and get cared for the Memphis way. Treatment that's based on your specific needs after a professional clinical evaluation by their experienced board-certified physician. Call the Memphis Men's Clinic today at 901-443-0475 or visit memphismensclinic.com.
I'm Dr. George Flynn, president of Flynn Broadcasting. On behalf of everyone associated with Flynn Broadcasting, we want to wish you good health, especially in this coronavirus situation. You can be the hero. All you have to do is practice social distancing. That's right, 6 feet away from other people, and you'll be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Also, if you feel ill and have a cough or fever, get tested so you'll know if you have coronavirus or not. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting. We'll keep you connected while you maintain your physical social distance. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station because we're in this fight with you and we're going to help you stay connected.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sportstime on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sportstime is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
And I welcome in hour number 3 of the Monday edition on this April 13th of Wolo and Stats. Nice to have you aboard. It's brought to you in part by Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. I love talking about my new G70. That thing flies, but it's so safe with all the new technology that they have in that car. I can't change lanes. It'll automatically, if I'm on cruise control, stop before I hit somebody. It is absolutely amazing to me the great new safe things they put into these cars, and then there's the luxury and the beauty that goes with it. What a combination. And right now at Homer and at Genesis of Olive Branch, 0% financing for 84 months. 84 months, you pay 0%. And 120 days to make your very first payment. 3 months before you make a payment on select models. Please get on Lamar into Mississippi. Craft Road's the very first exit. You turn left and go see Chris True and all the gang at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. What a thrill it is to talk with our friend Charles Davis. I certainly hope that we have a football season to talk about because it appears, Charles, some great things are happening for you. I'm not sure how much you can talk about it, but I think there's congratulations that will be in order. How are you?
I'm doing well, and trust you guys are, and everyone who can hear our voices, and hope everyone's staying safe and healthy, and those who are battling, hope that they recover quickly. And as always, incredible thanks for everyone who's doing what they're doing to try and help us get through this, especially those first responders who put themselves on the line every day to try and make this thing work for all the rest of us taking on extra chances. And unfortunately, you know, they have to go through it each and every day, and I just give my thanks for them. And as far as the other stuff, there's nothing for me to talk about just yet. Hoping we can do that in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, and it could be some good news there, and there will be good news around the NFL with the draft pending for next week. Charles, will you have NFL Network duties next week?
Doesn't look like I will. Obviously, we know what's going on in the world, and that's going to condense draft coverage and the way things are being done. Yeah. My understanding now is everything's going to run through NFL, through ESPN, because as crazy as it sounds, you know, with everything shut down across the country in most places. In California, NFL Network is shut down. It's not what they call non-essential news, so their studios can't be open, and they haven't been open since mid-March. Foxes have not been open since mid-March, The NFL Films, which would be in New Jersey, they've shut them down. But in Connecticut, ESPN is still open, and they can run studio shows. So the whole draft will run through there. I think there will be probably 3 people or so from NFL Network that will appear on the ESPN air. Our number one analyst, Daniel Jeremiah, will be there. Kurt Warner will be there, our Hall of Fame quarterback, and he'll break down those guys in the main. And I believe that Michael Irvin, from what I've heard, is going to be there, I guess, to talk about wide receivers. So the rest of us are no longer going to be part of that coverage. We may do some shoulder programming, for NFL Network, via, home cams and stuff like that, but we won't be part of the main show.
I heard they were really being stringent about some things too, like those home cameras that draftees will have. That they are told that if they have more than 10 people at their party, they will not be put on the air. So they're really trying to send a message here.
Yeah, they are more than 10 people. I think more than 6 in the camera shot. So when it goes down, you know how you have the celebration behind the player who's doing the talking, and sometimes it's loud and raucous. I think they've told them, there should be no more than 6. And I think they've told their own personnel the same thing. I saw an article today. Peter King, does such a great job with his Monday articles. He talked about Thomas Dimitroff, the GM of Atlanta. He's going to have a technical guy at his place, but he will be sequestered in another location of the house. He'll have a door that he goes in and out of that no one else goes in and out of, and hopefully they'll never have to interact during the night. But just in case their technology fails, he wants to have a guy there that could possibly work on it. But it's going to be like that everywhere. The GM's are going to be by himself, talking to the rest of his personnel who are all sequestered wherever their homes are. It's going to be an interesting night to see how it goes. But as always, there's a fail-safe, and it's called a telephone. And I heard where one GM had to have a landline installed because he didn't have a landline, as many of us don't anymore. Yeah, he had to have one installed just in case, the cell tower goes down, this goes down, and you don't want to miss an opportunity to make a pick because we've seen what's happened before. You guys know if you miss your time limit and don't turn the card in, you just forfeit your place in turn for that next pick. And so someone can jump you and potentially pick the person you want before you get your act together and make the pick after them. So we've had that happen in the draft very few times, but it has happened, and no one likes to have that happen on their watch.
It could be a very 1970s feel to the draft, couldn't it?
It really could. And in my head, and look, I'm 55, so I've been around for a decent amount of time. But a lot of the stuff with the NFL, there's still plenty of past history and lore that I've read about and the whole deal. And you guys remember Ernie Accorsi, the GM of the Giants at one point?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep. Okay, so Ernie's background was Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Colts before he took, long before he got to the Giants and took over there. And in his book, The GM, he tells a great story of the old draft. And the old draft was, how many teams were in the league then? 12, something like that. Yeah. And they had a conference call hookup to the league office, and you sat in your room back at your place in your offices, and you listened to the draft, and you called in your pick, and the whole deal. Long story short, one year they wanted a quarterback, and there were 3 on the board that they were considering. I think Earl Morrall was one of them. Lenny Dawson might have been in there. Don't quote me to have it exact, but it's that time frame, okay? By the time their pick came, the team before them picking took the 3rd quarterback that they had on their board that they would have taken in the first round. So all the quarterbacks are wiped out. And this was the Cleveland Browns. Of course, he's a young guy. He's in the room, and he says Paul Brown, of course, ruled everything for that franchise. He said Paul Brown's head, when the quarterback was taken, slumps down and his head is on the table. And you can imagine all the air gets sucked out of the room. You guys know what it's like when the big man in a sports organization is like that. No one wants to even breathe, And he said nothing's moving. everyone's still, and you hear this disembodied voice with his head still on the table say, well, I guess we have to take Jim Brown.
It worked out well.
How great is that?
That is great.
I've never heard that story before. That is great.
Ends up taking maybe the greatest player in NFL history. How great is that?
Man, I wonder who the third quarterback was.
I will have to go back and look, guys. And one time when we get together again, I'll see if I can do it. But I highly recommend it as a read. Ernie Accorsi, I think it's called The GM, a terrific read. And what's fascinating was how he locked in on Eli Manning and knew that's who he wanted as his quarterback. Yeah. And to read his notes, his own game notes that he scouted Eli with and what he wanted from him, phenomenal. What he saw in him that he wanted for his team, absolutely phenomenal. It's a great read.
Charles, fall of 2003, he was at Ole Miss practices. He was at every game.
He didn't leave.
He was as ever present in Oxford that fall, watching every movement and trying to get intel on him because he knew how big that pick would be. Who's best built for this draft to kind of go 70s?
You mean in terms of how they're going to do this draft?
What organization you think on the fly can adapt to this?
Stats, I don't know that I can give you one, but I can tell you a formula, and you can kind of break it down from there.
Okay.
Think of teams that you felt like are good drafters in the past.
Yeah.
And then you have to identify that within those organizations, those that are driven by a very strong GM head coach combo, personnel, scouts, and those are the ones that drive their draft. Because in a general rule, there's two ways of doing it. The way I just described, and then there's also teams that have the GM and all that scouts, but they really rely heavily on the coach's input. Well, this year, the coach's input can't be what it normally is because coaches in the NFL don't look at college kids until their season's over. So when your season ends, if it's the end of the regular season, essentially it's January 1 this year, right? If you're deeper into the playoffs, it's whenever that ended. That's when they got to start on looking at college kids. The teams that have been looking at college kids for 2-3 years and have a dossier on them, game film that they've watched, broken it down already, I think that they have an advantage in this year's draft because they've been on it from the beginning. And now, you guys have interviewed coaches for years, and I would say 99% of the time, if you ask them about scouting and this and that, they usually come back to, well, the game film is paramount, right? Okay, folks, there's no question that this year you didn't get all the extra work in, the interviews, all the other stuff. The game film is paramount. Now, will they fall back on it and believe it? So I think those organizations that are strong GM, strong scouting, player personnel, and have that voice, I think that they have a bit of an advantage in this year's draft.
Explain how most of these guys do this, though. I've always thought, based on watching like the old showboats, that they would take for a draft, they would rank their top, how they list the top players, and then they would also have on one column. On the other column, they would have their biggest needs and put those guys in there, and then mark guys off as they come up, and then decide whether they wanted the best player on their board or the one that they had the most need for. And so they really have just basically two choices when that comes up. Is that how that works, or is it different?
No, Dave. I think you're pretty well spot on. But I still believe the teams that draft best with that system, and that's basically the system, are the ones that go into it understanding this is what our philosophy is as an organization. Meaning, we draft by by who we think is top on our board, regardless. Or we will break the tie with need. But there's no question going into it, understanding so that the debate gets settled. How many times have we heard, I don't care if it's football, basketball, or whatever, right? Doesn't the coach usually tell you, I settled that debate in my head before we ever kicked off or tipped off? Meaning, if you get into certain situations, are you going to go for it in football, right? Are you going to foul late in the game, in a three-point game or not? That sort of a deal. Those things are settled beforehand by the good program, that's kind of where you are with this one. So when that kid comes up on the board and you have a screaming needed edge rusher and you get an edge rusher on there with essentially the same grade as your top-rated player, are you taking the edge rusher because of the need, or are you taking the top-rated player regardless? Because, as one famous coach has always said, if you keep making exceptions, that's what you're going to have on your football team, a team of exceptions. And I haven't seen exceptions beat anybody.
Charles, I'm taking Chase Young if I'm Washington. I'm getting loaded on defense. I give Haskins another year under a new system and a new coach to work things out. If he doesn't work out, I'm back in the top of the draft last year. Who knows? I might could wheel and deal and get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or someone from college football. But I fortify that defense for years to come with Chase Young in D.C.
Yeah, and I think that they flirted with the idea of maybe Tua at number 2. And I feel like they're where you're going stats. I think they're on Chase Young again, and it's not like they ever got off of him. Remember, Ron Rivera's the new head coach there. What's his background?
Defense.
Who do he hire as his new coordinator? Jack Del Rio.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a strong influencer, another former head coach. So remember, Washington does not have a GM of note. Okay, so to me, Ron Rivera is the highest-ranking guy. They kicked the tires on Tua before we ended up with coronavirus in our world. Tua visited Washington and went through the formal interview process and the whole thing. So there was a discussion at that place about doing that. But you have to remember these things. You mentioned Haskins. There's a big school of thought that the owner of the team really weighed heavy on them picking Haskins last year at 15. He's a local kid, went to the same high school as the owner's kid. Although they weren't friends, that story got overblown. Like they hung that wasn't it. He just went to the same school. But he's a local kid, and I think the owner thought that was worth something. Okay, fine. This year, Chase Young, do you know where he went to high school? Went to DeMatha, which is right there. So it fits what he's looking for. And in order for Ron Rivera to talk him out of that and have a Tua instead, the case would have been more compelling to me if they hadn't traded for Kyle Allen, who played quarterback half the year last year for Ron Rivera in Carolina, and his new offensive coordinator came from Carolina with him and Scott Turner. So Kyle Allen knows what they're doing already. Dwayne Haskins has his work cut out for him. So I'm with you on that stats. When I put all those things together, it lessens the idea to me that Tua ends up at 2 for Washington, and it seems more like Chase Young is cemented in. And as you said, now you have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, right? Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis.
That's scary.
Okay, Ryan Kerrigan. Pretty formidable. So it sounds a lot like what San Francisco put together to help race them to a Super Bowl.
I think when I look at this draft, 1, I think it's a really deep draft, and 2, and I mean this, no disrespect to Burrow or Herbert or Tua for that matter, but I think the surest bet is Chase Young. I see that guy. He's going to be 4 or 5 time Pro Bowl kind of guy and last a while.
Yeah, and we all do. You guys know how the scouting game is played, right? All right. So when you take a player and you sit in a scout meeting with your GM, your personnel director, whatever, okay, and each scout has their own areas, et cetera, and they bring their players to it. So it's a lot like, okay, and I now present to you, right? You got his tape up, and you're going to give what your evaluation is. When you go in and say Chase Young, well, the first time you do this, the GM or the personnel director is going to say, okay, who's your comp? They always comp guys because they want everyone in the room who hasn't seen the kid to kind of get an idea in their head about what they think they're looking at. Well, the number one comp for him, and I was on a show recently, remember with AJ Hawk, Bobby Carpenter, and Dustin Dvorak, all 3 NFL players, good players, all 3 to a person said that their comp for him was Julius Peppers. Well, if you're comping someone to Julius Peppers, you think he's really good because Julius Peppers, that was 100% man for how long, for how many different teams. And Chase Young gets that comp across the league because I asked a couple of GMs and player personnel people, and that name came up more often than any.
Charles Davis with us, and you've seen him the last few years on Fox with Kevin Burkhardt on our Sunday afternoons, and we've enjoyed that a lot, and we look forward to seeing Charles next year somewhere on our TVs. We don't want to get too far into that, but we're glad you are with us today. Charles, this situation we are in because of coronavirus, for the NFL, Could they play a spring schedule that you're hearing bandied about around college, with Super Bowl Sunday being April 19th or something next year?
Yeah, I think they very well could, because I think all of our sports are at that stage now trying to find where their window is to play. And I don't think any of them are going to say, all right, we're just going to skip a season if it comes around like that. We'll just go on to the next season and get back to our regular rhythm. If there's any chance to play and do things, all of them are going to do it. The NBA, now, look, you're going to fight some arena stuff, right, because things are scheduled, but everyone's in the same boat, trying to figure it all out. Remember, all the arena dates that were held for concerts and all, those aren't being played either.
That's right.
So will the concerts be rescheduled? Will the basketball have priority? Hockey's going to be fighting for all that. It'd be interesting as heck if all of a sudden we're playing hockey in June, but they may very well decide to do that because you can create the ice indoors and make it work. Maybe a little strange, but you can do it. Basketball probably works because we've known about the Summer Olympics and basketball forever, so it's not something that's foreign to us. Baseball, they'll play whenever they've got a chance to do it. Now, the hard part for them will be in the winter months. Would they have to do something like they've talked about already, make it satellite? We're going to play in Arizona. We're going to play in Florida. We're playing the hot weather places, and we just don't have home. You won't have home diamond advantage, that sort of deal. But they may want to go ahead and play. I would say yes on football. Wouldn't it be interesting as heck if we have college and NFL football seasons at the exact same time because they both had to move it to the spring?
Could happen.
It could very easily happen.
It's subject to happen.
It really happen. And the beauty, though, guys, is it won't be the XFL. It won't be the AAF. It'll be something that people are passionate about, which is college football, and something people are also passionate about, which is NFL football. But those that are sharing, stadiums or locales and all that, they'd have to work through some of that as well.
Do you think it'll come down to where you will be in the stadium and the rest of us will be watching on TV?
It's a possibility, Dave. It's really a strong possibility. When I say strong, let me not get out there and try and be Dr. Fauci, because I'm not equipped for that. But if indeed that's what's being said, that we can't congregate like that, I think all the teams and all the sports are going to consider playing and making it it won't even be a studio audience, will it? It'll be almost no audience, and go ahead and play the games, and now the TV ratings go through the roof because at least people are watching. But how strange would it be for everyone, because all three of us and a good number of people who are listening to our voices right now have coached, broadcast, been around the game, done something for it. And when you go to an empty stadium and they're scrimmaging, your mind is just different, isn't it? Not practice.
Yep.
Practice.
It's just
right?
different.
You're not thinking about the rest. It is just different. Now, you go ahead and put the proper uniforms on and all the rest of it. Okay, you can try and make it that way, but it's going to be different for people to watch that and not hear those things that are coming off the screen normally. Not hear that fan reaction while you're watching it. It'll be interesting as heck if they go there, but don't think for a second that they wouldn't if indeed it means that they would actually have seasons to fulfill TV contracts.
Charles, we really appreciate you joining us today, and whatever is going to happen for you and your career, we are very excited.
We're thrilled
and happy for you. And we're going to keep
an
eye on all the news.
I appreciate you guys are the best. Please stay safe, you and your families, everyone who can hear us out there. Again,
you
first
too.
Responders. So much thanks to you guys, and of course, I always remember my man, Mr. Lapidus. Take care, guys.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Charles. Thank you very, very much. Charles Davis with us, and Vol for life, just like it's the same alma mater as George, and they always had a very, very, very kind bond. Very nice.
Well,
Charles.
and he can't talk about it, but it looks more and more as I believe you mentioned. He is going to be the number 2 CBS guy. He'll be working with Ian Eagle on CBS, and the only guys above them would be Romo and Nance. And I just, first of all, he's just a great guy. You know that his wife is from Memphis. His mother-in-law is still here, and she listens a lot. So congratulations to her as well. I'll let you know this portion of the show is brought to you by the Spirit Shop. You know, that little log cabin, Poplar in St. Nick, 4848 Poplar to be exact, just right down from the Clark Tower. It's like everybody else. They are figuring out ways to stay in business, and they've been very busy. That's one of the businesses that have actually done very well is spirits, and you can understand why. And you can understand that they've always been very service-oriented. Well, now they've doubled it because you don't walk in. You just go and call, or you can stop by. They got a little tent outside. Tell them what you want. They'll go in and bring it to you. And if they don't find it in there, they'll order it for you, just like they always used to. Curbside Spirits for the greatest of wines or liquors. It could be tequila, it could be bourbon, it could be vodka, whatever you need, they have for you. They have beer, they have accessories. It's all there, and it's all curbside now at the Spirit Shop at Poplar and St. Nick. We'll take a quick time out. Yeah, go ahead.
One quick thing for the break, and I know they're out, but I do think it is fair. At minimum, we say the XFL maybe drew the short straw of all time in trying to relaunch in the year of coronavirus, global pandemic 2020. That was some really rotten luck.
There was. I mean, they really did get the raw end of the deal, as you would say. But how about this?
Not as much.
But, no, the AAF never had the money. This might have had the money, but you know what this said to me? He could have closed up shop and still started next year. When he decided not to, just to cut it, he'd already seen enough that it was never, ever going to make it. And I'll give this to Vince McMahon. He came in with a lot of bluster. He said after he failed the first time, I'm going to do it differently this time. He went out and got a guy like Oliver Luck who knows his stuff. They did a lot of things the right way. I think what is real clear here is that people love the National Football League. They love college football. That doesn't mean they don't need time off from a sport. It doesn't mean they're going to embrace every product that is out there. Spring football just doesn't work. The closest it was the USFL. It was unique in those days, and they were trying to go up against the NFL and get great players. But if you're saying here's a minor league in the spring to wait until the really good product comes, that's not going to work.
It's just not.
Yep. We take the time out. When we come back, we were able to speak with a lovely lady who's the president of the Mid-South Food Bank. Her name is Kathy Pope. We will replay that interview in just a minute as you listen to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats.
The word is out about R&R on Sports, where you've heard interviews from Ken Griffith Jr., Dr. J, Hank Aaron, and many, many more. Right here, R&R on Sports, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. Don't miss it.
Hey folks, I'm Jarrett Carter. My family recently purchased East Memphis Ace Hardware at Quince and White Station, and we're excited to offer the best selection of Big Green Egg and Traeger grills. And then don't forget about our Benjamin Moore Paint Studio and the Garden Center for flowers. Save 60% with our new Duracell key fob replacement program. We have a master locksmith service as well as glass cutting and screen repair. The East Memphis Ace Hardware, located at Quince and White Station behind Three Little Pigs.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. 5 Roofing. Fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
5 Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
At AutoZone, we've always been there to help get you what you need when you need it, and that hasn't changed. That's why we want to let you know AutoZone stores are still open. Whether it's a quality part or a free battery test to help you stay on the road, we've got what you need. And if you do happen to need anything fast, we've got free store pickup inside the store or curbside, your choice, as well as next day delivery. Our stores are open and we're ready to help make the job easier. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Restrictions and details at AutoZone.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience remains. We understand that hardships may arise, and we're prepared to help. Mortgage rates remain near historic lows. If you think that now is the right time to refinance your mortgage, our home loan experts are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
I'm Dr. George Flynn, president of Flynn Broadcasting. On behalf of everyone associated with Flynn Broadcasting, we want to wish you good health, especially in this coronavirus situation. You can be the hero. All you have to do is practice social distancing. That's right, 6 feet away from other people, and you'll be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Also, if you feel ill and have a cough or fever, get tested so you'll know if you have coronavirus or not. I'm Dr. George Flynn with Flynn Broadcasting. We'll keep you connected while you maintain your physical social distance. So keep listening to this Flynn Broadcasting station because we're in this fight with you and we're going to help you stay connected.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Cruising through our final hour. It's brought to you by Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and of course the very famous 16-point Energy Saver Super Tune-Up on your air conditioning system. What they do, basically for $69, and if you get in quick now, it's only $57. Just say Wolo and Stats, they'll give it to you for $57. They come in, first they march into your home and they clean the interior, tune everything up, replace all the filters. Then they'll go outside and they'll tend to your outside unit that's filled with leaves and dirt and grime. You know, you haven't looked at it in a while. It's like taking your system to the car wash. It really is. And then it becomes efficient. And it's all for $69, but if you get in early, $57. Just call 384-3511, 384-3511. Ask for the 16-point Energy Saver Super Tune-Up from Conway. Earlier in the program, a couple of hours ago, we were able to catch up with the president of the Mid-South Food Bank. Her name is Kathy Page, and she filled us in on the gargantuan task that they are trying to pull off.
A hurricane of sorts, just like you have dealt with for years on the Gulf Coast. We thank you for joining us today, and we applaud your good work.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, and we were thrilled to have you, and we want to be able to help. First of all, tell people just the amount of food and how many people you have helped, say, in the last 6 weeks since we really entered into the virus of 2020 world.
Well, we have increased our mobile. We are serving 2 different ways. We've increased our mobile pantries where we do direct distribution to the public. So we did 83 of those last month. So we called Disaster Day 1, March 12, and we really ramped up the amount of food that we are distributing. So last year, prior to COVID-19, we averaged 1.3 million pounds a month, 1.3 million, and just in March, we did 2.2 million. Wow. And then just in April, we have done already 1.1 million, and it's the 13th of April. So you can tell the quantity is, we'll be doubling and tripling the amount of food that we're distributing.
when you're dealing with those kinds of numbers, it staggers the head. Explain what your day is sort of like. I mean, you get up and are you calling food distributors or people to prepare food, or how does your day work?
Well, we don't deal with prepared food, and I have food resourcers, so they're coming to work every day trying to find the food. So usually my comment to my staff is, where is the food? Where are the funds? Those are the two things we have got to get in the door, because we have got to continuously put food orders in the queue, because everybody's ordering food right now. All of the 199 other food banks in the country, the Krogers, the Walmarts of the world, everybody's going after basically the same food, because there's only X number of manufacturers in the country. So we have to continue to have food orders in the queue. I am part of the emergency management. They call them ESF, emergency support functions. And so I'm doing that with Shelby County, the state of Tennessee, and the state of Mississippi. So I'm on conference calls a lot. We are working with the state of Tennessee emergency management for them to order food for us, the 5 food banks in Tennessee, doing the same thing in Mississippi. I'm dealing with donors, of course. We're reaching out to different donors that have supported us in the past. We're making decisions on getting community letters out and working with a lot of wonderful partners that are really working together to see how we can collaborate to get more food out the door. For example, we've gotten a great relationship going with YMCA, and they are the ones that are feeding the children their lunch that they are missing from not being in school. And we are having mobile pantries at not all of their sites, but a lot of their sites, so that the kids that are getting the lunch, the parents are able to get food boxes to take home. So we've really increased our partnerships, which has been so fantastic.
Kathy Pope, our guest from Mid-South Food Bank. She's president of Mid-South Food Bank. And, Kathy, please tell our listeners how they could most directly help tomorrow. Is it with a contribution of actual food? Is it money? Is it both of those things and time, all three of those things, and a prayer? What all can people do to help you tomorrow morning?
Yeah, the first one would be the prayer, because we just know the increased need. We can't even fathom it. Right now I'm crunching numbers with a 55% increase in need. I think that might even be conservative the longer we go on. But the very best way to help the food bank, which in turn helps those who are hungry, is going to be donate financially. Because once we pool everyone's resources, the funds, then we are able to order additional food. And we're just able to buy in bulk, so we can get it a lot cheaper than you can donate food. So donating funds is just always going to be best. You can do that, midsouthfoodbank.org, and hit the donate button. There's also a coronavirus response button that will give you additional information about either donating or where are the mobile pantries in our community. We are not having volunteers in the warehouse, and in fact, a little early on, I made the decision to not have anybody in the warehouse that we didn't have to have here, so that I could protect the workers that do have to come to work. So the drivers have to come to work. The warehouse workers have to come to work. So we've got 35% of our workforce is working from home. So we're not having volunteers in the warehouse, but we do have other volunteer opportunities off-site. And again, you can find that on our website, midsouthfoodbank.org.
I went to your website a little earlier, and I see that you, rotate all these every day, different places where you will distribute the food. How do you arrive at that? How often do you rotate them? And I know you gave us a staggering number. Usually it's 1.3 million a month, and you're already there just about halfway through this month. What does that mean in numbers of all the people you are serving that are in need of having food?
Well, for example, we served the households that we served in March, and again, we called the day one disaster day was March 12, but just in March, we served, by way of mobile pantries, we served 23,500 households. That's staggering. Now, that is in all of our service area. So we serve 18 counties in North Mississippi, 12 in West Tennessee, and then Crittenden in Arkansas. But 14,000 of those households were in Shelby County, and the others were in different parts of our service area. But we are also getting great amounts of food out to our partner agencies. That's your brick and mortar pantry, food pantry. That would be like in your local church or whatever that would be. So we're getting a great amount of food out to those pantries, as well as adding additional mobile pantries.
Kathy, I think we're all stunned at how quickly this all changed all of our lives, all of our routines, all of our seemingly real or perceived very, very comfortable, cozy lives. Has it shocked you? Has it stunned you that after if you're calling the kind of D-Day March 12th, well, today is April 13th, so let's call it a month, that in 1 month is this, and you're talking about crunching the numbers in the future. What in the world could 6 months hold?
I don't know that any of us know that. It's shocking. It's stunning. It's concerning, obviously, for the longer people are out of work, the greater the need is going to be. I'm very worried about those in our community, what the poverty and what the hunger is going to do to all of us. You know, the hunger and poverty is reaching people in great numbers right now, and I think the best that we can do is just to say, what can I do today to make my community better? What can I sacrifice? What can I do? How can I serve? And when we all do that together, we're going to come out the other side. We are, but the picture will look different for us, but we're going to all come out the other side.
And I guess the difference, Brett mentioned that you came from the Gulf Coast and you'd been with natural disasters before. That event occurs, and then there's a period of recovery. Well, this is everybody, and there is no timeline. That's probably the biggest difference between that and getting food to people who've been involved in some sort of a hurricane.
Right. Well, and I served Bay County, Panama City, during Hurricane Michael. So, but, that was limited to a certain geographic location, right? Yeah. So I could call in the troops from all over the country.
Sure.
I had help from food banks from everywhere, Oregon, California. All I had to do was say, this is what I need, because we're part of a Feeding America network. So all 200 food banks in the country that are part of that network, we're like family. So all I had to do was tell everybody what I needed, how many trucks, how many drivers. I needed food, I needed help, and they came from everywhere. But our whole country's in need at the same time, and who would have ever thought we would be here? It is shocking, but it's one of those things, okay, this is where we are. This is what we're facing now. Let's buckle down and work hard and do what we need to do. And this is the thing with food. Time is of the essence, right? People are hungry today, and people are going to be hungry tomorrow. So we just kind of look at it that way. What can we do today? How can we partner? How can we get more food out the door? How can we meet that need today and plan to meet that need tomorrow?
Kathy, what would normally be your busier time of the year? I don't know why I want to, and please correct me if I'm off. Why do I want to stereotype maybe around the holidays? But what would normally be your busiest time of the year, and what would be the poundage going out then?
I would say two different times. I would say summer is a little bit busier because when the children are home from school and they don't have access to free and reduced breakfast and lunch, that really strains a household that is already struggling. There was a statistic that came out fairly recently, maybe 6 months ago, that 40% of us cannot handle a $400 emergency. So that emergency would kind of throw us into a loop, right, of having to find out where to get money or where to get food. That's staggering that many people are living that close. So summer is tough because you've got more mouths to feed at home. And then, yes, around the holidays because, again, kids are out of school a little bit longer. then because of December and the break during Thanksgiving. And then, too, don't we think of holidays? We want everybody to have food to sit around the table with their family. Sure. And so that's kind of when people rally a little bit more. But, the reality is we face hunger 365 days a year. And this is just a tough time we're in right now. But again, we just all kind of have to buckle down and decide, what can I do? How can I help? Because this affects all of us. Our communities will be changed for a very long time.
We're talking with Kathy Pope, president of the Mid-South Food Bank. And I know there's a lot of detail and a lot of planning that goes in, and I'm certain that you don't have finite answers for this question, but as you are planning, are you given direction as to how long all of this might last?
We are kind of crunching numbers for what the next 6 months look like for us, and we are looking at needing to distribute. I don't even know the number's so big, I don't know, but it's 3 million pounds a month. So that's almost 3 times what we were distributing during Blue Skies. And so that's about how far out we're looking, and that's a great amount of food, obviously. It's just an enormous amount of food. But that's what we're looking at. And then we're going to look a little more long-term about what that picture would look like.
Kathy, again, will you let our listeners know how they can help literally right now? That after we say goodbye to you, they could go online and contribute.
Yes, I would really encourage them at whatever level. I mean, it doesn't matter. Every dollar helps. Every dollar helps provide 3 meals because we have some donated product and then we can purchase in bulk. So I really encourage you to go to midsouthfoodbank.org and click donate and just donate from your heart. What can you donate? And then continue to do so. Make it a monthly gift. Just think about the families that were struggling before this crisis, and then now we have so many more folks struggling. So I would say that any way that you can help, be part of the solution.
Kathy, thank you for your time today. We may reach out again or a couple of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more times with you, but we do appreciate you joining us today. Stay strong. You sound resolute, and I know you'll have to be in these times. But thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Kathy Pope with the Mid-South Food Bank.
And we really appreciate that. I just can't get over that. 3 million pounds of food a month for the next 6 months they're planning. That's 18 million pounds of food. That blows me away.
Those numbers hit me about as heavy as anything other than obviously the death and the illness toll.
Yeah. Stunning and thought-provoking for sure. This portion of the show brought to you by The Butcher Shop. There's another restaurant trying to keep everybody still employed, and they're doing such a good job. Simpson's always thinking not only can you get all the great food cooked and come for pickup, curbside pickup, or use Grubhub for delivery, but you can also, if you're looking for ground beef, let's say you don't have it, or steaks or marinated chicken breast, you can go to The Butcher Shop and get the raw meats to cook for yourself. That is how far out of the box they are thinking and what they will do for you to make sure your distancing and your social awareness is being rewarded. That's what I think of it as. When the Butcher Shop, you get a meal from the Butcher Shop, it's a reward. And Hamburger Friday, they still do it on Friday. You just from 11 to 2, pull up, curbside, order your burgers, they'll bring them out. But if you would like for the Butcher Shop to bring you Hamburger Friday, you have to have at least $250 worth, but they'll bring it to your business. All you got to do is call the Butcher Shop. Always going the extra mile, still open and delivering to you at the Butcher Shop at the Agri Center. That is Walnut Grove and Germantown Road. We take a break. We got Crunch Time and a wrap still to come here on Sports Time on Sport 56 with Wolo and Stats.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
O'Reilly. When you need auto parts, O'ReillyAuto.com is just a few clicks away. We offer convenient options for you to get your parts quickly. Order online and pick up for free at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store. We'll even bring it out curbside. Or you can have your parts delivered right to your door with free shipping on most orders over $35. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
A heart in my tasty Honey Nut Cheerios? Cereal, you trying to tell me you love me?
Actually, it's reminding you that it can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Wait! They can help lower cholesterol? I've been so focused on the sweet, tasty taste that I completely forgot. Now I'm in love.
Learn more about making Honey Nut Cheerios part of your heart-healthy lifestyle by picking up a box at your local grocery store.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Can anyone explain to me why anyone would care how I measure your roof? We have all heard about measuring your roof from outer space. Well, to be honest, there are aerial pictures that are taken every 4 years that can be used to measure a building, but it's not from outer space. Besides, no one, and I mean no one, can tell you what's wrong with your roof or even if you need one by using pictures that might be 4 years old. If you would rather do business with a family-owned and operated business with a lifelong tie to Memphis that refuses to mislead or use gimmicks, please give me a call. Best products, best warranties, and the best customer service we know how to provide. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
This hour indeed brought to you by the great folks at DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road. Check them out online at DeSotoAutosales.com. 662-890-7184. Get down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience. All the cars test driven, checked out head to toe, bumper to bumper, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. If by chance they don't have it on the lot at DeSoto Auto Sales, they'll go out and find it for you. No shortcuts taken. You're treated like family by kind, courteous employees. Laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales. They know we're living in a world today that time really matters. They want you to have the ultimate car experience. Walk in, meet with your sales rep, test drive your car, credit work, credit approved, paperwork completed, all in 45 minutes. Get down to DeSoto Auto Sales at 5704 Goodman Road, DeSotoAutosales.com. Down in DeSoto County, come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales. We wrap up this Monday with Taco Bell Crunch Time.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! This is Geraldo. It is crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
Take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working? It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, muffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Dave, I learned that today, 66 years ago on this day, Hank Aaron made his big league debut. He went 0 for 5 on opening day of the 1954 season. It worked out pretty well for him, one of the top 5 players of all time. And sadly, I don't think Hammer and Hank gets enough credit.
Well, you're probably right about that. I don't understand why. Maybe because he played in Milwaukee and then Atlanta instead of New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. That might be a part of the reason why. But clearly, you look at his numbers and every aspect of the way he played the game.
Every one of them.
There's no doubt of his incredible greatness. I learned today Christian McCaffrey has just become the highest-paid running back in NFL history. He is about to sign a 4-year contract extension averaging $16 million per year. So he will now shove Ezekiel Elliott behind him, who will only make $15 million per year. But how about that? Basically, a $64 million extension for Christian McCaffrey. A running back? Is a running back worth that kind of money?
Boy, not if that knee goes out early in the season. But that's true for all of them. But I wouldn't think so. But that's the market these days. Could have done without. The operating costs of stuff is what everybody should be watching around college sports. And Ross Dellinger at Sports Illustrated with another great piece on that. He's right about the operating costs around college football. But the salary talk for head coaches is so overdone. But the non-revenue producing sports, those are the laggards. That's what's so expensive to have, is to keep all those operating costs up for that. Each Power 5 program last year lost an average of $17 million on sports that aren't football and basketball, and they made an average of $28 million on football and $5 million on basketball. It's not the head football coach's salary that kills the bottom line around athletics departments.
I could have done without these two sad stories. Jacqueline Cruz Towns, the mother of Minnesota Timberwolves star Karl Anthony Towns, has died today due to complications from COVID-19. She was only 58 years old. And then there is the story of former Minnesota and Seattle quarterback Tavares Jackson, who passed away at the age of 36 from a car accident. He had been the Tennessee State quarterback's coach in 2019 and way too early at age 36.
He started at Arkansas and was really destined to be the quarterback of the future for them. Big arm, great guy, supposedly around the building. But then Matt Jones kind of burst on the scene, and Tavares Jackson saw which way that was going, went back to his home state of Alabama to Alabama State. He's from Montgomery and played there, and then got in the Super Bowl win for the Seattle Seahawks. Dave, we'll catch up with you again tomorrow, and I'll wrap things up today. Thank you for your time today, buddy.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it. We'll see you in about 21 hours.
You got it. We will do it. I'm keeping a close eye on a lot of things tonight, including Jalen Green's decision. Great high school name where he played in Napa, California. Prolific prep, and he has been a prolific prep. And if he signs with the Tigers, this year's signing date and signing class could be as ballyhooed as last year, especially if they get Greg Brown and one or two other pieces. And if, the big if, Precious Achiuwa decides to come back. If he decides to come back, the Tigers will be good if all those guys decide to do something different. The Bulls fire their GM during a global pandemic. Boy, the bad timing award for Gar Forman. He's out during all of this. He's a little bit like the XFL. Hard to be unemployed during a global pandemic. XFL filed for bankruptcy today, but Gar Forman out as they clean house in Chicago. Also, keep an eye on any more uniform changes around the NFL. Ever so slight tweaks to the Indianapolis Colts uniforms. Nothing like the Buccaneers and nothing like the Rams or the Falcons, but most of the uniform changes have not been to suit me. I love the Colts traditional uniforms. They're going to go back to more of the Johnny Unitas look, but also have an alternative look that most people are trying to develop, and we know why they try to develop. They want you, once all of this is over on the pandemic front, to rush to the team stores and buy all these new jerseys. And a good time to roll out a jersey is around the draft time. they know exactly what they're doing. I want to thank Charles Davis, Tim Doolin, David Cobb, and really want to thank Kathy Pope from the Mid-South Food Bank for a lot of great information that she gave us today. We'll be back tomorrow. I know we're going to have Mark Heath, the CPA, with us to talk about how to handle your finances during these times. Brent Beard, Bob Carpenter, Bo Marchant, and more tomorrow. For Dave, for Drew, I'm Brett. Everybody have a healthy and safe Monday night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test driven, checked out from head to toe, unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 40